Here we go. We welcome you on a beautiful, and when I say beautiful, I mean absolutely glorious continuation of this weather in Hamilton, Ohio. And we welcome you to Dialed In. I'm Tom Brenneman with Luke Brenneman and our producer, engineer, longtime buddy, Casey McAllister. How are we doing this morning?
Doing great, Tom. Doing fantastic.
Well, what's the occasion with all the red stuff on? You haven't worn that basically all year. Now they win a game and you show up with that?
I had a feeling that they were going to do well this week. After winning game 3, or was it game 4?
Yes, it was game 3.
I just have a really good feeling coming up.
Do you have a good feeling about the Reds, Luke Brenneman?
Oh, I don't. Not at all, but we'll get into that in a little bit.
To be fair, Tom, the last time we talked about the Reds, they were 5.5 games back from the wild card. They actually improved over.
Isn't that hard to believe?
That's insane.
It's very hard to believe. Very hard to believe.
And you were the one talking about this. Look, one of the challenges, and I said this to these guys a little while ago before we came on the air. One of the challenges to this show is we primarily talk about what's going on with local teams, right? So, what does the show want to be? Is it strictly a local show? Should we bring in more national stuff? We've done that with some interviews from time to time. And now moving forward into the football season, and we've talked about Luke and I got to figure out his class schedule because as it stands right now, we come your way on Mondays and Fridays at 9:15 a.m. And you can find us on YouTube, the Chatterbox Sports page. We also post on the Believe Network. Just search Dialed In with Tom Brenneman and you're dialed in. You can download the show. But here's one of the things. When you start talking about the baseball playoffs, okay? Now, we know the Reds, and you're exactly right, Casey, it's mind-boggling that they lose 2 out of 3 over the weekend, and they are 4.5 out of the wild card. But they have 7 teams ahead of them. But how many people want to talk about actually, or hear us talk about, the teams that are really legitimately in the playoff hunt? Like Arizona, can there possibly be a team on the planet hotter than that team? They've won 8 series in a row. They're 25-10 in their last 35, and they're playing all the big boys. They're not playing a bunch of stiffs. They've been playing the Orioles, the Phillies, the Dodgers, everybody. But does anybody care here on this show?
Yeah, I guess that's a question for the chat. If you're a baseball fan, you have to care. What they're doing is special right now, and for the most part, they're taking a lot of the spotlight away from teams like the Padres, too. I mean, it looks like the Braves are slipping. This wild card has completely flipped upside down. And if you want to relate it back to the Reds, I think the biggest takeaway is sigh of relief that the Reds didn't go out and make some Hail Mary buy at the trade deadline thinking that they belonged in the same conversation with these teams. And yeah, they're still within 5 games when you look at the games back column on the standings, but boy, oh boy, the Diamondbacks turned it on, the Padres really turned it on.
And again, they're playing all those good teams. They are every team in baseball, if you don't know this, every team in baseball in its own division has what's called a travel partner. So you'll go into a city, right, and they'll go into a city right behind you. And that's what the Padres are with the Diamondbacks. So the Padres are playing all these teams the Diamondbacks are playing and beating them all.
Right. They're both 8-2 in their last 10. But I think the biggest thing that you have to credit them is this is a team that these are teams that as of right now, and they have no signs of slowing down, they went into the deadline, said, hey, we get a couple days off here, but it is win or go home. And they took that about as literally as possible. Some teams kind of messed around a little, like the Braves are doing right now. Yeah, they're a little bit beat up with injuries and whatnot, where they're like, we have a couple games to play with. And now you're looking at the playoff picture, and the Atlanta Braves have that last wild card spot in the National League, and they're still a top 6 or 7 team in the odds to win the World Series.
That team's not winning the World Series.
But what I'm saying is that's a World Series candidate right there if you're within the top 8 teams, and we know who the Braves are with their postseason pedigree. And it is a testament to how good the Diamondbacks and Padres have been. And we're not even talking about the Mets, who have had a wild card spot for over 60% of the season.
Yep. I mean, again, I don't know how many of you out there care if we're not talking about the Reds, and we're going to talk about the Reds here shortly. But the National League wild card is going to be. I don't know if it's really going to be when all is said and done. I think there's only going to be one spot that's competitive. I think the Diamondbacks and the Padres are going to nail that thing down.
One of them might win that division the way they're going.
They might, the way they're going. All right, but we're going to begin with football, okay? And it was game 1 of the preseason, of course, for your Cincinnati Bengals. Beautiful night. Really good crowd. Big crowd. Casey, were you down there Friday night? Saturday night, forgive me.
I was not. I had my my get-together, my party.
Oh, we'll get to that in a minute. Did you get an invite to that, Luke?
No, I didn't.
I didn't either.
I was refreshing my Twitter DMs for a while, just hoping something would pop up.
Yeah. And Casey actually has our respective phone numbers, so we wouldn't have to go to Twitter, but apparently he must have lost those somewhere along the weekend. Anyway, Bengales and the Buccaneers at Paycor. Joe Burrow saw action in a preseason game for the first time, if you can believe this, since 2021. And you know what? He looked pretty doggone sharp. 5 out of 7, throws a touchdown pass to T. Higgins. Now, they caught a break on the touchdown drive because there was a completely bogus pass interference call against Tampa Bay. It was an uncatchable ball to Higgins on the sideline. They threw the flag anyway, kept the drive alive on a 3rd and 17, and then they go on and throw the touchdown pass to Higgins. But the bottom line is Burrow made some nice throws, forced a couple, yeah, but, I mean, hey, look, bottom line is all we care about, he's healthy because we know he's Burrow and we know he'll be on his game. For the first time since the end of the 2022 season, we saw Burrow healthy. So let's think about that, okay? He wasn't fully healthy last year at any point in time. All right, tell you who else looked good. And we're going to get into a lot of this. And a lot has been made about Amarius Mims, first-round pick, right tackle. He got the start because Trent Brown hadn't been able to go, who they brought in as a free agent. So Mims is opening a lot of eyes down there. He looked solid, but Brown's going to get a chance to compete for that job. There's still a solid 4 weeks left until the season opener. So that's not nailed down quite yet. We will get into some of the things that may have caught our eye, caught your eye. One question that I would ask, and I have a hard time with this about how much stock you put into one game. Right? It's a preseason game. Okay. And we'll get to this in a second. But, I mean, is it time now for the Bengals to be looking at another defensive lineman? Because teams ran all over them last year, and Tampa Bay the other night ran all over them. Now, fairness, Sheldon Rankins didn't play. B.J. Hill did not play. But they can't play every snap. Reader's gone now. Chris Jenkins. Ooh. I've not seen a guy get pancaked 2 or 3 times in a long time. That's your second-round pick. Now, I'm not going to dive into the woods too much and get down on the kid. It's his first ever professional game. But that cat got blown up multiple times by backup offensive linemen for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Getting worked up over preseason is something I'm not going to do. I don't sleep well enough at night, considering even my age, especially. I'm not even an old man like yourself. So,
excuse me?
My bad.
Older man.
No, we're not at elder man just yet.
Elder. Yeah, well, I guess you get in your 60s. Yes, elder. That's fine.
I'm joking. But you get the point, especially week 1 of the preseason. All I care about was the fans showed up. The first drive with the first team was a touchdown.
Yep.
I get the pass interference call. Football's back. It's a sigh of relief. I mean, boy, has anybody been waiting on it more than this crew who comes in every day, especially the guys on off the bench every single day, because there hasn't been much to talk about.
No.
People thought the Olympics would be a huge thing to talk about. Yeah, there were some really good stories that we're going to get into in a moment, but that's hard to cover from a media perspective day to day, especially sports like track and field and whatnot that don't get any hype around it or media until the Summer Olympics every 4 years. So I think it's good that football is back. I'm not worried about the Bengals. I think the defensive line has been a question mark for years. It really has. And that's something that the scientist Lou Anarumo has been able to figure out.
Until last year.
They don't need to get to the – yeah, but you can't really look at last year when you're playing with Jake Browning for the last 60% of the game.
No, but I'm talking about just the defense.
I get that, but I'm just saying the defense is a lot harder to attack when you know you don't have Joe Burrow as your quarterback. You can do certain things schematically when you have a guy that can take you down the field with no timeouts in 2 minutes compared to a guy like Jake Browning. You got to take more risks. You got to get to the passer more, and I think that's where they got burned and exposed. When the Bengals were at their best and won the AFC Championship, they did not pressure Patrick Mahomes more than 3 times that game. I don't know how they make it work, but I'm not going to lose sleep over it until we might see another rocky start to start the year, but I'll wait another month for that to happen.
Reed Mouse says, I think the first Burrow drive could be a combination of Viagra and Blue Chew out of business. It could put them out of business. Well, that's the kind of quality content we're getting in the chat today. Our friend Reed Mouse.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to put a lot of stock into preseason stuff. I know a lot of people are concerned with our defensive line room. I don't disagree with the notion of going out and getting more help. But the guys that played majority of the snaps Saturday are guys that, one, we knew probably weren't going to be great run defenders anyways. I know Chris Jenkins, his size and profile is not going to be a guy that can split double teams every single play like DJ Reader can, like a nose tackle is supposed to do, right? He's better one-on-one. And I thought when he had opportunities against offensive linemen one-on-one, he did what he was supposed to do, right? He did things that you like to see. He was able to reach and get to some of those gang tackles and things of that nature. He really, really struggled when there was duo or inside zone where the guard and the tackle or the guard and the center are combining that initial block. I mean, he was getting blown up.
Yeah.
He's got to do a better job at anchoring at the point of attack, I think. And then Zach Carter, I don't know why he's still on this team.
I mean, some of these guys that they've held on to, you know, and this is what makes me crazy. Casey, look up for me, please. I meant to look it up before the show, and I didn't. How many millions of dollars are the Bengals under the salary cap again this year? So we'll find that out. But if you remember on this show last year, I was a guy screaming and yelling, Hendrickson needed some help, right? And they should have gone out and signed Jadeveon Clowney. Wouldn't have cost him a fortune. You bring him in on a one-year deal and then see you later. Or if he's really, really good, maybe you bring him back on another one-year deal. He signed with a different team again this year, right?
Right now, the Bengals cap space is sitting around $19 million.
19. Can you imagine if we are all in agreement? And again, I'm not going to go off the reservation on this yet, but I'm giving you fair warning that I will be getting there if this team, for whatever reason, and especially when it comes to the depth of that defensive line, and a very big question mark about what kind of pressure they're able to put on the quarterback again this year. If they go in close to $20 million under the salary cap, I never want to hear from anybody that they believe the franchise is all in on winning a Super Bowl. There is no way on God's earth you can say a franchise is all in. T. Higgins last year, right, on a deal. A lot of other things going on. Can you really say they are all in to win the Super Bowl if they're $20 million under the salary cap?
No, you can't. I think teams that are really all in almost have to go over the top when you're trying to complete your team, especially if you have money to work with. If you're below the salary cap, a couple of the positions that come to mind that all you have to do is dangle the dollar and they're going to come, and at the top of that list is an edge rusher. I mean, it's about as cutthroat as it gets with that position. You get to the quarterback or you don't, and you will get paid if you do. Von Miller is a perfect example. He was out of his prime for, I'd say, the last 4 to 5 years of his career, still picking up million after million because he could consistently get to the passer. Not at the Super Bowl MVP level he once was, but there are guys out there. Jadeveon Clowney, we talked about it in the car up here this morning. He was a perfect example last year. He could have got picked up for a couple $1 million.
Yep.
And guys like that, pick up one, you pick up two, you pair it with the rest of this defense and what Lou's been doing the last couple of years, I really think you're looking at a more complete team than you have right now. I think the corners have their own issues with their youth. We'll see how good these linebackers are back for another year that we re-sign. There's a lot of question marks on this defense, But one thing and a box that I think you can check is if you spend money and just go get a talented edge rusher.
So I don't disagree with the edge rusher proposition. I don't think Osai showed some flashes. Murphy was fantastic yesterday or Saturday. I don't disagree with that notion. I think defensively, though, we're really banged up there.
Yeah.
Like, we don't know fully what that looks like when everyone's healthy and everyone's
But that's why I'm saying you've got to do something to help the depth, because already you've got guys hurt. And you know other guys are going to get hurt.
Well, the area that I know for a fact that played to their full potential and looked horrible is the depth on the offensive line. I don't know why Jackson Carman's still even in the league. He had 3 penalties against the 3rd and 4th string.
Yep.
He had actually, I think it was 4 penalties.
Yep. And one of them they didn't take. Yeah, they didn't accept the penalty.
Yeah, it's just terrible. Like the offense completely shut down when it went over to the 2nd string because the offensive line could not do anything.
Yep.
Trey Hill looked terrible. Matt Lee was the only positive out of the entire backups, and maybe guys like Kirkland looked pretty good. But, man, that depth, it looks bad right now. Really bad.
Well,
that's what I would maybe focus on. Maybe.
Yeah, and I mean, even the first team, though, Casey, I mean, again, I don't want to get too deep into the woods on this because it was only one series and one game, the first game. But look, that's what these guys, the Duke Tobins, the Zach Taylors, the Lou Anarumos, that's what these guys are paid for, is to now evaluate. They're watching practice, every cut up. After every practice, they cut up the film, and the coaches go back after the players have gotten in the shower and gone home. They're sitting there looking and evaluating every player, every single play. Same thing in a preseason game. So if you're sitting down at Paycor today, where their offices are, and you got practice today, you know, are you coming back into Duke Tobin if you're Zach Taylor said, hey, man, listen, we got to do something about the defensive line? Or, you know, if you're Frank Pollock, you come in and say, guys, you know, I mean, we got no depth there, and even our first team guys couldn't run the ball. I mean, when you look at the Bengals' offensive line just from a straight physical presence standpoint, they look like they ought to be able to maul people in the run game, right?
Yeah.
Those 2 tackles are the biggest in the league.
Yeah, I have a feeling that at some point we're going to see a lot of outside running the ball, like outside the tackles, outside the, a lot of pitches and whatnot, sweeps and things like that, because the interior, it struggles, man. It's smaller, I would say, and weaker, at least on the right side. I think Kappa and Karras, they're just not getting enough push. But what I saw from Orlando Brown Jr. and from Mims, I really think that those two are really, really solid in the run game. I think it'll get going.
Okay.
I just don't think, especially with Zach Moss being out for that game, like we haven't seen what it looks like with him in the mix yet. What I saw, the flashes from Chase Brown, I'm not too worried about it because we already knew going into this year that we're going to have a lot of 1 to 2 yard runs and a lot of 7 to 8 yard runs. And that's kind of what happened on Saturday.
That's right.
He got stuffed once or twice, and then he ripped it for 6 or 7 yards. So we didn't see enough to fully be worried about the starting offensive line, but the depth on the offensive line is horrible.
I tell you, a fellow in the chat, and welcome, Anthony, I tell you what, Munoz. I don't remember Anthony ever being in the chat before, but I could be totally wrong. But he has brought up some great points here today. He's saying, Tom, look, there are no free agent defensive tackles that are available right now that are better than the ones the Bengals have.
And that's probably true.
And he says, let's let everybody get healthy before we start calling people out. And, Anthony, I said that. I said I don't want to be calling people out because it's only one preseason game. So I'm not going to do it. More on the Bengals here to come because we still got 25 minutes left in this show. Baseball, we talked about it. I mean, another lost weekend for the Reds. And what I mean by that is they go Another 3 games that tick off the schedule, and they lose 2 out of 3. They finally do win yesterday. If any of the teams ahead of them, except for Arizona and San Diego, but any of the teams directly ahead of them, if any of them were any good, they would have just buried the Reds in this wild card thing. Yet they're 4.5 games out of first. They were embarrassed by Milwaukee. It is mind-boggling to me that a team can get their asses kicked on a regular basis the way the Reds do when they play the Milwaukee Brewers. And that's been going on for 4 years.
Yeah.
I mean, sooner or later, there's got to be somebody or something done that draws a line in the sand that says, look, we got to compete with this team. Now, you can say, well, there are a bunch of one-run games over the weekend. You're right. They were. So you're right there. But the bottom line is you lose into a 2 out of 3. They don't even compete with the Brewers. They're 4.5 out of the wild card. 7 teams are ahead of them. One of the teams ahead of them comes to town tonight. The St. Louis Cardinals. That'll be a 3-game series. Andrew Abbott starts it for the Redlegs. Former Red Sonny Gray on the mound for the Cardinals. Summer Olympic Games wrap up yesterday. The United States wins the most medals, 126. China second with 91. Great Britain third with 65. One better than France, who won more medals than they have since 1900. The U.S. and Communist China shared the lead in gold medals. That would be 40 each. But congrats to all the athletes. You know, Luke, you said a second ago, I think oftentimes in athletics, the Olympics specifically, the time and dedication for most of them, not the basketball players, but the track and field, the, you know, whatever the sport might be, swimming, whatever, the amount of time and dedication and commitment with very, very little money at the end of the day. These are amazing athletes.
It's insane. I mean, all you have to do is keep up with like a junior swimmer that comes out of your area.
Like we do.
Has a chance to make the Olympics,
Yep.
and you hear that word and you're like, there's no way. And then you kind of take a deep dive into what they go through preparing for the Olympic qualifiers, the time
That's right.
trials, the everything that goes into that. It is 4 a.m. practices at the high school level, and then once you get to that Olympic level, it's a lifestyle. And they're really doing it, for the personal accolade, but when you get to that Olympic level, you're representing your country for, I think the USA gives what, a couple thousand, but I mean,
each sport has its own little deal,
right?
You know, where they get some fundraising stuff from different individuals or corporations, and certainly the USOC, the United States Olympic Committee, they're getting paid. But let's be honest about it. At the end of the day, it ain't much.
And that's what makes the Olympics so cool, because even when you look at the high money sports and the rich basketball players out there, Team USA, they brought it. They brought it. And you could tell they were playing for pride, and that was good to see. The Olympic golf was really good, if you caught any of that.
Yep.
Scotty Scheffler, a 29 on the back nine, was 60-1 going into the back nine with live odds, crying as the national anthem plays and he gets his gold medal. That's what the Olympics is all about. Because you're always going to get the amazing story in swimming, the amazing story in gymnastics, but you want to see the top of the line athletes that really do represent the United States on the professional level.
Yeah, global level. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Representing them then on the global level when you know it's not just for a huge paycheck. It was really cool to see.
I tell you, one of the guys, and we brought it up on the show Friday, I talked about how much passion that the American team showed, the men's basketball team. Women won the gold too, beat France by 1. So congrats to them. But I talked about Steph Curry and LeBron James. Now, LeBron has become a very controversial figure because he dives into a lot of political and social situations. And some people like it, some people don't. Whatever you think about it, one way or the other, doesn't matter. But Curry, he never steps into that sort of world. He is just what that dude did. Those two guys, especially in the championship game. You told me that LeBron won the MVP, which surprises me.
It shocks everyone, really.
I thought Curry deserved it.
I thought Curry was about as Captain America as it gets.
No doubt about it.
It was scoring upwards of 40% of the team's points in the semifinal game against Serbia when they were down 15 going into the fourth quarter, or hitting 3 to 4 straight threes in the final 3 minutes of the Gold Cup.
That was unreal.
Or gold medal game. Isn't that typically who gets the MVP? The guys who shows up and leads the team to win when it matters. I mean, it doesn't really matter. They won gold, and you can tell. I'm sure neither of them really care at the end of the day who got it. That's all that matters is the U.S. won. It was a great Olympics for the United States, but I think the biggest win from a lasting impact for their legacies and the amount of respect the public has for them is that basketball team.
There's no doubt about it.
Because they were under a lot of scrutiny, whether it was from fellow Americans like Noah Lyles with the world champions of what remarks. People were rooting against them, trying to prove his point correct. And they went out there and they kicked butt. And you got to give Steve Kerr credit, too. He got so much hate. Being the head coach of a dream team for the USA Olympics is like a nightmare job.
No doubt about it.
If you win, you don't win by enough. If you win, you get criticized for Jason Tatum never playing in the rotation not being fair. And if you lose, you pretty much are under heat of the entire nation because you were given the best 15 basketball players in the world.
Well, I tell you, I think that the way Kerr, because look, Kerr was an outstanding player. He was never a great player, but he played for 12, 14 years, great shooter, was part of those Chicago Bulls championship teams, phenomenal college player at Arizona, incredibly successful coach, multiple titles for Golden State. When you see a guy like him, and you look at that staff, they got Spoelstra from Miami, right? They've got Mark Few, coach from Gonzaga.
Tyronn Lue.
Yep, Lue is there, and I'm forgetting one other guy, and I wish I wasn't. But anyway, when those guys decide who the rotation is in terms of the players that play when it matters at money time, that tells you truly who are the top players in the world and that you want on the court, as we like to say, Casey, at nut-cutting time.
That's right.
Jason Tatum just won an NBA title. I mean, God bless him. He played his tail off. But the bottom line is, a guy who has been around the block as a player, as a championship coach, and now a chance to win a gold medal, when they get to nut-cutting time, who's playing? Curry, LeBron, Durant, Embiid. Who else am I forgetting?
Anthony Davis played huge minutes.
Okay, I mean, that's what you see. You see the guys that he says, this is my best chance to win, and that's what Kerr, I don't know if he gets paid to do that job or not, I'm sure he does, is that's what he is paid to do is come there and win an Olympic gold medal. Because you're right, everything else is a complete and utter failure if the United States loses in men's basketball.
Yep. Well, they got the job done.
They got the job done.
Hats off to those guys.
FC Cincinnati, meanwhile, has advanced for the first time ever to the Sweet 16 of the Leagues Cup. That's this tournament that goes on in the middle of the MLS season, and then you stop playing your regular games and your league and everything, right? Yeah. And then you go play in this other tournament, and then you come back later and finish your MLS season and have the playoffs and all that stuff, right? Go figure. Okay, well, they won, and now they play Casey tomorrow night.
Yeah, Philadelphia Union. It's most FC fans will recognize them as being not a true rival, but kind of like a playoff rival, I guess. We've met them many times in the MLS playoffs and have traded blows back and forth. Should be interesting. Just this last game versus Santos, they pretty much dominated the entire game from start to finish. They had most of their starters out there except for Acosta and guys like Kevin Kelsey. But I think now at this point they're going to probably start really trying to push for that win because they're advanced far enough to where they can probably make a push to get another trophy in the trophy case. So I hope they do. I hope they do try to.
But Luke asked you the question. I don't mean to interrupt. Luke asked the question you asked him earlier. At the end of the day, what?
What?
Does this mean anything?
Does it mean anything for the playoff standings in the MLS? No. Does it mean anything other than just a trophy in the trophy case? That's all it is. It's just for accolades, right? Doesn't have any bigger meaning than that. And I know that's really strange for many people. But in soccer, you don't just compete for your league's championship cup. You compete for many different types of trophies, many different types of cups that you can put in your trophy case. And FC's trophy case, so to speak, is very barren right now. It's got the supporter shield.
Well, it's a young franchise.
Right,
Yeah,
it's
I mean,
young.
Come on, they got a damn good one with the Gold Cup last year.
Right, I don't.
Is that what it's called, Gold Cup? Best record in the league. What was that called? What cup did they win?
That's the supporter shield.
Supporter shield. Forgive me. Thank you. Thank you. I got to get more up to date on this, Casey. Thank you.
Which I don't. Like, I get it. Like, it's very foreign to people. Personally, I would rather them try to go for the championship because I care about the league championship way more than this tournament. But in the same regard, I don't mind getting another trophy if we can get one. Okay. Right? So.
All right. That's fair enough. Mark Fetter's commenting on Casey and the Reds trip. Looking good. One final note in sports has to do with soccer. You may not know this name, but you will today, at least for a day. Anson Dorrance. Do you know that name? This guy, 43 years, has been the head women's soccer coach at the University of North Carolina. There was a decade where he coached both the women's team and the men's team at North Carolina. They're 4 days away from starting the season, and he says, I'm done. Well, Anson Dorrance has won more championships. Think about this for a second. He has won 21 national championships at North Carolina women's soccer. That is more than any other coach in any other sport by 8,000 miles. This guy has won 934 games. He's lost 88.
That's impressive.
And by the way, like I said, throw in another 172 wins when he coached the men's and the women's team for 10 straight years. So Anson Dorrance at 73, he said from the very beginning, he modeled his program after Dean Smith. Of course, that's a former legendary basketball coach at North Carolina. In every way they were going to go about their business. And congratulations to Anson Dorrance. 21 national championships.
Nut cutter, leader of men.
Leader of men.
Those phrases.
Leader of women
Leader
and
of
men.
women.
Leader of human beings.
That's right.
Anson Dorrance. All right. We got about 12 minutes left. Let's get into a little bit. Give me one or two things or people, and we've talked a little bit about Mims already. We've talked about Burrow a little bit, but there are others. We've talked about the run game or lack of the run game. What stood out, good, bad, or indifferent with the Bengales on Friday night?
I'm not a preseason guy. I never will be. The thing that stood out to me, and I mentioned it earlier, football is back. They scored on the first drive, and boy, it is good to see a healthy Joe Burrow, a healthy and excited T. Higgins scoring that touchdown, just to have him in Cincinnati. This is the Bengals' year. It really is. It has to be the Bengals' year, and instead of putting a bunch of pressure on them, there's nothing we can do about it. They're either going to win games or not. They're going to have a slow start again and have to claw their way back. Whatever way it goes, I'm going to enjoy it, is the perspective I'm at.
Well, you're going to enjoy it if they win.
I'm just saying I'm here for the ride. The Bengals.
Yeah, but you go into a deep state of depression like Casey does. You guys both, it's like life is falling apart when at 4 o'clock in the afternoon they just lose a 1 o'clock kick.
Yeah, and because we're real fans, something that, you're...
I'm a real fan.
You're on a journey.
I'm a real fan.
Journey.
I am a guy who has been around.
You're a roller
cynical,
coaster,
sarcastic, all those things because of my age. I am a fan. Fan all the way. Go ahead.
You know what I'm saying. I'm excited. I'm here for the ride. I love the Cincinnati Bengals, and I really do think... I'm not going to say it's their last crack at it. As long as Joe Burrow's here, they're going to have a crack at it. And what they're doing, they are trending upwards. But I just want this team to stay healthy, and I want something to be excited about come Christmas this year.
Okay, well, I've got two different
Okay,
ones.
let's hear it.
One on offense, one on defense. Tremaine Burton. Whew. Man, he looked great. I know it's against the third and fourth string guys, but the way that he operated, it's on another level. I mean, he sets the guy up on his first catch. It's just, you don't think much about it. He runs the exact same route, gives a little hezzy, gets down the field, scores a touchdown. That's a pro's pro. I mean, that is all-time ready to go type of mentality, at least from a receiver standpoint. And then Myles Murphy. I mean, I know he didn't get a sack technically, but he was phenomenal.
He was right there for 3 or 4 sacks.
Right. He had a lot of pressure. And
yes, he did.
What we're going to need moving forward from him is lots and lots of pressure. So very excited to see Murphy. Very excited to see Burton. I don't know where Burton's going to end up falling when it's all said and done. If he's going to be the 4th, the 3rd, the 5th string receiver. It doesn't matter. I want him on the field at some point this year. I want him to get some touches.
He's going to be on the field. I mean, he's too talented not to put him on the field. The question is he adapting and learning the playbook and especially with a slot, because that's not his thing.
Yeah.
But it has to be his thing with no Tyler Boyd. That's a little weird the other night too, by the way. No Tyler Boyd and Joe Mixon in a game for the Bengals. That was a little strange, but I'm going to tell you, man, nobody's more bullish. And I said this, if you remember last year, Casey, nobody is more bullish than I am on Yoshivas. I think this guy is going to be a great player. His body, his athleticism, he seems to have good hands. When the ball gets to him, he catches the ball. Now, the challenge he's going to face is the challenge of Burton, right?
Right.
He's going to face that challenge of a very talented cat who's going for the same kind. But, man, I just watch Yoshi, and I think to myself, this guy is going to be really good.
I like both cats, man. They're both going to be really, really good. I have no qualms about our receiver depth.
No.
Even losing Charlie Jones, I'm not worried at all.
Yeah.
Not one bit. Now, Charlie Jones, he had a good injury report. I mean, he's only going to be out for a couple weeks with a bone bruise or something with his knee. So, I mean, we're going to just be even better there. So I can't wait for that.
And, of course, you get Chase back sooner or later.
Yeah, we get Chase back. Love it.
All right. I got a couple things that stood out for me. You talked about Browning. I mean, he was awful.
Yeah.
But in fairness, the line was awful. But I think all of us, we're expecting now Browning to be like a starter when he comes into games, right?
Right.
Because the way he played last year, he was great. You talked about Murphy. The other dude is his 5th-round pick out of TCU, the cornerback.
Yeah. Fig.
Josh Newton.
Yeah. Fig Newton.
Man, did you see the shot that guy took that damn near knocked him out on the field?
Yeah, blindside
block. I mean, blew him up. He goes down. He goes to the sideline. And he realizes, this is my chance. This is something I have dreamed about my entire life, running out of the tunnel for a professional NFL football game. I got to shake it off, and I got to get in there. I'm a 5th-round guy. There's no guarantee that I'm going to make this team. He comes back and gets a pick. And he had, 2 or 3 passes defensed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said for the culture of the Bengals right now. And dating back to, you mentioned Mixon and Boyd, I think those two were a part of the group of catalysts that really made it cool to play in Cincinnati. They made this city rally around this team, and it seems like the players are so bought in. Even the last 3 years, everything in the preseason, they want to be here, they want to show up, they want to win. Everybody's on the same page outside of Jamar Chase looking for a bag right now, but that's going to get figured out. I think that just every time a story like that comes out, especially for a hometown fan, it's just so good to hear that guys, I mean, it's football, it's life. Guys are going to battle for jobs and whatnot, but it seems more times often than not, it is the Cincinnati Bengals in a good light when you look at team camaraderie, competing, and just fighting as a whole on a day-to-day basis. And that's what it takes to make the playoffs, let alone try and chase a Super Bowl.
The last guy I want to go ahead, Casey. You were going to make a point.
The other point I was going to make is there was another corner that also did really well.
That's why I was. You took the words right out of my mouth. Go ahead.
Dax Hill.
No doubt about it.
He looked great, and that interception, man. I don't know if there was a different angle or if I just missed it, but it looked like he caught that ball. It looked like he caught an interception there. I think that position battle is up for grabs after that game. I think it was pretty easy to see that DJ Turner was probably ahead of Dax Hill.
Well,
obviously.
yeah, but he's had more experience playing the position.
Right. But, man, Dax Hill, he is something else, man. He had 2 pass defenses or 3 or something like that and an almost interception.
And he did get burned on one play when he didn't turn his head around, and he said it after the game. He said, look, I got to get the head turned around there. I think it's a 38-yard gain or something like that.
If
but
he does.
It happened.
If he does, he probably picks that ball off too.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, he gave you reason to believe. I mean, I think he gave you hope.
Yeah.
We always talk about your guy, Obama, hope and change. I mean, he gave you hope that this change from safety to corner with the athletic ability, God-given ability, yeah, he's an extraordinary athlete.
Yeah.
Incredible athlete. He's going to have a chance. And, I mean, with Awuzie not here anymore, they need somebody to step up. Hilton will be there. You know that, right? And you know that Cam Taylor-Britt will be there. And he just had his tonsils out, so he didn't play the other night. But a good first step. Next up, I think we're going to see the secondary challenged a little bit in the second game because Caleb Williams looked pretty good over the weekend.
Yeah, I saw something on the internet that people are trying to make the argument that there's never been a rookie quarterback, let alone a number 1 pick, thrown into a better situation. The Bears, I'm not going to talk about what their front office has done just yet because you can go get all the best pieces in the world and it doesn't blend and make the greatest smoothie in the world.
That's right.
They look pretty complete, and Keenan Allen's there. Obviously, they have Mooney. DJ Moore just got extended. They said they got the offensive line. I mean, they have DeAndre Swift as their running back. On paper, that is an insane-looking team. Chicago just wants something to be excited about, and I think they're going to get it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't disagree with you at all. I think we talked about it many times on Off the Bench. Caleb Williams, he doesn't have very many excuses other than being a rookie.
Dude, he's an amazingly talented guy. I mean, I don't know why so many people are down on him. I don't know if it's because they don't like him painting his fingernails. I don't know if it's because, USC had the worst offensive line in the history of football. That guy made some of the most amazing plays I have ever seen in my life as a quarterback.
I don't disagree with you at all. My point to that was, I feel like they have a very, very good roster right now. There's a few key pieces missing, mainly on defense, but it still looks like a really, really good football team. They were 8-9 last year. People forget. After the trade deadline, after they got Montez Sweat, they went like 5-3. They probably should have beat the Browns. Joe Flacco,
for sure.
Threw like 3 or 4 interceptions and then had another 4 or 5 dropped. Like, that team, that could be a really, really scary team. It'll be a good challenge for the Bengals. We'll see what they look like against, if the starters play. I don't know if the starters will play now that it's game 2 of the preseason.
Well, I listened to Tim McGee a little bit on the radio the other day, and now that you're down to 3 preseason games, he made the point that he thought the first 2 were by far important, and the third one, anybody who's probably going to make the team doesn't play. Yeah. That was the way it worked when you had 4. Every coach was different on what they wanted to do, but you'd see the first, the second, a little more in the third game, and then zippo, nothing in the fourth. So now that we're down to 3, and no word yet. Zach Taylor have a press conference later today where I'm sure among the first questions he will be asked, how much will the starters play here in this game at Soldier Field in Chicago? All right, what's a move today for you?
I got a bunch of stuff to bang out.
You got a big women's soccer game Thursday night you're broadcasting. Big Ten Network.
I do. Big Ten Network Plus.
Big Ten Plus.
Big Plus, yeah.
Okay.
But women's soccer back in the Big Ten. Never done women's soccer before. Did a couple men's games in high school. But Indiana and Tennessee on Thursday night. If you want to give some of your money to the Big Ten Plus, subscribe and tune in.
I got to go back and renew my membership again.
Yeah. Got to tune in.
Pay it up. Absolutely. What's your move today or the next couple of days till we see you on Friday? Anything big going on?
I do have a few things I'm going to be doing this week. We're going to finally start our broadcast schedule here for the fall for Chatterbox. So we'll be broadcasting Miami soccer.
Nice.
And then Fairfield soccer on Friday. Some other more fun things. I do plan on going to one of these Reds games Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I got to get one of those House of the Dragon hats. I mean, I got to get myself one of those black and red, slick-looking Targaryen Reds hats. Those are phenomenal.
Oh, my God.
What?
Go ahead.
What's wrong with that?
No, nothing's wrong with that. Go ahead. You were just saying. That's it.
Well,
That's the move.
that is the move.
You just
Getting
shut
one of
his
those
move
hats is
down.
so
I did
good.
not shut it down.
I'll get it on 3-2-1 night so I can get tanked up. How about that?
There you go.
Now that's the move.
That's the move. But you said at your own party as a host the other night, you did not get tanked up.
No, I didn't get tanked up because it was more family oriented, family setting wise, and I had a couple of nice mixed drinks. I had a pink lemonade, vodka.
You said that Alexandria made those.
Yeah, she made. They're really good, Tom. Really,
That
really
sounds
good.
good. Good summer drink.
The optimal Casey tanked up environment is Chatterbox Crew, Golf Simulator.
Yeah, with the boys.
That was fun.
That was all time.
It was fun.
Yeah, our team though.
Shout out Jimmy.
Whisper and Jim came up there. I let him hit the tee ball for me, which I thought anybody's got to be better than me off the tee. He wasn't, and we lost.
I don't know if that was Jimmy there. I think it was Jimmy mixed with a little fireball.
Yeah, Jimmy and I had one too many fireballs that night.
Yeah. All right, Kenner and the boys are all ready. I can see Jacob and Elliot out there. They're ready to get in here and get to work. Jimmy, we miss you. Hope everything is good back at home before he heads off to Notre Dame. Casey, I'll see you Friday. Thank you.
I'll see you Friday.
Lukey, I'll see you regularly. We got a lot going on, including our trip to Bloomington, Indiana on Thursday.
Yes, sir.
All right. Everybody, thanks for being with us. Off the Bench is up right now. Here we go.
The Browns, they're putrid. They're the worst team in the NFL.
The season, the 2024 season is over.
Lamar Jackson can't win the playoffs. He'll win a third MVP, though, so that's great.
Drew Sample is the most important piece of the Bengals offense next year.
Go Joe Burrow. He deserves to be MVP. I wish he was the Browns quarterback. Kind of mean that.
If you're looking for the most reactionary, silly, and unserious show on the internet, then you're home. Live from Hamilton, Ohio, it's Off the Bench by Chatterbox Sports on 1410 ESPN Radio.
Real life football. We actually had real life football over the weekend. I don't care that it was preseason. We actually have live, tangible football takeaways. I mean, there's so much to dive into. It's preseason. I don't care. Make fun of me all you want. I absolutely loved it over the weekend. It was so fun tuning in to watch real football. Finally, we are getting closer and closer. No more talking about practices, although practices still will be talked about, but actual preseason games over the weekend, including your Cincinnati Bengals, and that's what we'll, of course, be opening up the show with here today. Justin Kinner with you here coming out of the weekend. We got Casey McAllister. Casey McAllister, welcome. This is show number 2 for you to start the day.
Yep, show number 2, and I should be all ironed out, kinked out. No more mistakes. No more mistakes.
Kinky Casey over here. I like it.
That's right. That's right. If I know the one thing about Casey is there's always be some kinks in there.
He's always kinked
There's
out.
always
all
a
the
kink
time.
or two.
Great way to start the show. Shout out to Jimmy. That's an empty chair over there. We are trying to find a way to fill that chair. It's a big chair to fill.
That's right. There's no one else at the company that wants to be on the show, so I don't know how we could possibly fill that chair.
I talked to Trace. He said, hey, what do you think about Reed? I'm like, nah, it's a no for me, dog. I'm like, I don't know. But nonetheless, we got Elliot Rearing. See, without Jimmy, there's more time to do full names now. Elliot
That's
Rearing,
right.
good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm
What a
living the
special
dream.
what a special day it is.
Happy Monday.
Post weekend, the weather's good. Felt great this weekend.
It was a little chilly this morning. I loved
Loved
that.
it. Loved
Oh,
it.
it was wonderful.
It's whenever I don't have to like sweat all day, it feels great, and that's what it was Saturday and Sunday. I think Friday night really as well. So yeah, it feels good outside. I'm ready to roll, baby. And we have a company Reds game today.
That's right.
Thank you for that.
Oh, I totally forgot about that.
Thank you for that.
I also
Yes.
forgot about it. I asked Jacob.
Yeah, I reminded Elliot earlier this morning.
So, yeah, we got a Reds game tonight. I cannot wait. And at least they're not coming off of a sweep. We'll talk a little Reds coming up. Jacob Tissett, how are you, sir?
I'm great. You know me. You know football is what I'm all about. So having this weekend was great. I'm a little bit embarrassed about how little preseason football it took for me to be completely out on baseball season. I mean, I'm all the way in on football. I watched minimal Reds this weekend. Watched the highlights, checked back in. But boy, oh boy, am I all the way in on football.
Yep.
The whole timeline is game one takeaways, preseason, highlights, everything like that from all around the league. It's just the best. I love it.
Yeah, and again, I do think what has helped, because I went back and looked in recent years, like starters usually do not play at all in the first preseason game. So it's like you get that taste of, you get the Hall of Fame game, you get that first preseason weekend, and it's just the crack of the pads, football being on the TV, but you're not really getting anything of substance. But there was plenty of substance from over the weekend, including your Cincinnati Bengals. I see there's no Ohio State, no Alabama polo. You dusted off the Bengals polo. I like it.
It's Bengals season.
All right, so not that the score the score does not matter. I don't really care about the score. This was about just getting glimpses of key guys in this offense. Which why we've talked about this a lot last week. Joe Burrow is in year 5 with your Cincinnati Bengals, and this is the furthest into the preseason that he has ever participated in. Like, that is absolutely kind of wild when you wrap your head around it. 5 years in the league, or 4 years in the league heading into year 5, this was the first preseason game that Joe Burrow has ever stepped foot out on the field for. Now, I think a lot of you aren't really big advocates of him getting a lot of preseason time, so it's not really a huge deal, but it is a huge deal because the fact that he was on the field yesterday for the preseason meant, or Saturday night, whenever it was, it just meant that he's healthy, and that's the big takeaway too. And the fact that he stepped foot out on that field, he was able to drop back, get a couple big throws in, connect with T. Higgins, even for a score, and walk off the field in one piece. Not mocking that is a huge deal because I think everyone's holding their breath anytime he steps foot out on that field, even in the regular season, but the preseason more so than anything. I know between Mims and the offensive line, obviously the run game, the defense, special teams, I know you guys want to talk about as well, but I thought it was very key. I thought it was very crucial. I thought it was very cool, I should say, that Jamar Chase. Sorry, T. Higgins and Joe Burrow connect on that opening touchdown right off the bat, just to kind of set that tone. Didn't see a lot of them throughout that afternoon or that evening. You didn't need to, but the time that they did have on that field, they definitely maximized it. You were all jacked coming in talking about
it was incredible.
Joe Burrow this, Joe Burrow that.
That's right. Yeah, that first touchdown was great. That first drive was awesome. The starters only played 12 plays except for amarius Mims, who I guess at this point we're going to call a starter. He played 15. Yep. He came back out for that second drive with Jake Browning that went 3 and out. But the rest of the starters on that first 12-play drive, phenomenal. Joe Burrow, 5 of 7, 51 yards and a touchdown. Those 2 incompletions. One was when there was a free rusher off the edge and he just threw it into the ground to avoid a sack. The other one was a pretty dang good throw to T. Higgins, double covered in the end zone, that ended up popping free just barely after a hit on the goal line. So a really, really a great showing for Joe Burrow. A lot of people pointing back to that touchdown, but I was down at the stadium. My favorite play of the night was the very first play of the game. Joe Burrow, shotgun, dumped it off to T. Higgins. T got the first down, and I think that stadium wanted to do the T chant more than anything else, just because of all the questions about him this offseason and whether or not he'd be back or whatever. So seeing that to kick off the game, the stadium erupting, there was 60,000 people at a preseason game.
Yep.
I mean, it was absolutely absurd down there. The crowd at the banks before and after the game, the crowd in the stadium, lines for food and beer in the concourse. I mean, it really did feel like a regular season game. Everyone kind of trickled out when the starters left the game, as you should. But, it really did feel good to start the game. It really felt like football season.
Isn't it different about football? Like with baseball, you'll have a team of guys you don't recognize out there, or just they're a bad team. But the ballpark atmosphere, you could just sit there and just chill with the guys, have a beer, always a beer, right? But, have a hot dog and just enjoy the atmosphere. Football, the starters are out. We got to get out of here. There's no taking in paycor, which I thought that was wild that so many people left. But obviously, Joe Burrow, again, one drive, he completed 5 of his 7 pass attempts, 51 yards, a touchdown to T. Higgins, which was key. Obviously, he didn't have to really – it's not that Joe Burrow needed to have a good outing at all in a preseason game, but it just makes it extra special, especially when you connect with a fan favorite like T, especially with as loud as his offseason was. No doubt about it. Casey, I'm sure you were just on cloud 9.
Oh, yeah. I watched the entire game from home and watched every snap and absolutely loved it. Football season is back, and I finally get to basically come out of my shell now and finally have a voice on the show. It is just the best time of the year. And I loved what I saw from the Bengals for the most part. There was very little that I didn't like, or little I should say that I'm super nervous about. Some things that are correctable, some things that are not, but for the most part, I really loved what I saw from the Bengals Saturday. So just really loved what I saw from the Bengals.
Way to take advantage of the opportunity to have your voice more heard on the show.
Do you want me to go in detail what I liked? Because
I'll tell you what I didn't like. I'll tell you what I didn't like. Brad Robbins.
That's right.
Brad Robbins stinks. That's all that guy does is stink. 20-yard punt, 90-yard punt, doesn't matter. He just stinks.
Right off the bat?
That's right off the rip.
I guess we're gonna do that.
I think the end of the dynasty of Jake the Snake Browning. I think it might be towards the end of his tenure.
Is it the
here.
football
He's
version?
gonna be the backup.
I think I hit that nail on the head.
Yeah.
Talking about the game on Saturday, I said every snap Jake Browning plays from this point on in his career is just gonna chip away at that legacy that he left after last year. Because he's a backup quarterback, and he's very much a backup quarterback. And last year he played like a starter. And we saw a little glimpse in the preseason game of what he really is, I think.
So you think they should have tried to capitalize on his value at that time and try to move, trade him or whatever?
I don't necessarily.
He's cheap. They got him very cheap.
Right. So I don't necessarily mind keeping him. We've discussed whether or not Joe Burrow's injury prone enough, which means whichever side of the aisle you're on, there's at least a level of worry about an injury concern. And to have a backup quarterback that can come in and, if it's not a season-ending injury, tread water for a game or 2, maybe 3, that's very important. So I like that the Bengals have invested in that position. I think fans should probably temper their expectations if we do have to see Jake Browning in a regular season game.
Well, that was my point, too, why they should have traded him anyways, just because of the fact that if at the time when his value was peak, you got to get something in return, because I don't care if he is a good backup quarterback. If you're going to someone that's not Joe Burrow, the season. You're not really playing for anything of significance to begin with. But look, that's besides the point. I don't think they were ever realistically going to move on from him as far as that's concerned. But yes, also not going to bury him based off of a preseason game when last year he looked really good when he played with the starters. When he's coming in, not playing with starters, obviously that's key as well. What were you going to say?
I mean, I think it's hard to evaluate him when
For sure. No question about it.
The offensive line was as poor as it was. Jackson Carman does not deserve to be on an NFL roster.
Yeah, any NFL roster.
Any NFL roster. He had, 4 penalties, and then one of them was declined.
Yeah, 4 quick ones. Yeah.
Yeah, he looked awful. Lots of, Trey Hill looked bad. Matt Lee looked good, though. That's the one positive.
How long can Trey Hill look this bad in the preseason until we just cut him? Because every time Trey Hill runs out there and plays center, he looks terrible. And he just continues to be on this team.
I don't know, man. There's some weird thing going on with them, maybe some blackmail.
Yeah,
I don't know, because it feels like they refuse to try to improve the position as the whole group as a whole. The depth there is just bad. I guess they went out and got Matt Lee, and that
showed some flashes.
Step in the right direction there. Kirkland looked pretty good. Cochran, the tackle, looked good. So I don't feel horrible about the offensive line, but the guys that are ahead of them should not be ahead of them.
Yeah.
And I don't understand why that's the case. So I think that's hard to evaluate him on that. But Logan Woodside, in the same breath, I mean, he looked really, really good. Really liked what I saw from Woodside. It's unfortunate that he decides to run for the first down on 4th down.
That was just come on, guy.
Oopsie.
You gotta throw the ball. It's 4th and 11.
To be fair, he had a really, really good ball. I say really good ball. It was an incomplete pass, but it was almost a touchdown. That 2nd down throw.
Yeah.
It was just a hair off. I mean, he just throws it a little more inside, and that's a touchdown. So I like what I saw from Woodside. I like the depth there at quarterback. I'm not going to be too concerned with Jake Browning's performance based off of how everyone else played on offense. It was just abysmal.
Yeah, and that's completely fair. I think one of the standouts that a lot of people didn't necessarily expect to see or maybe even know the Bengals had was an undrafted linebacker out of Wisconsin. I'm going to give his name a go, but it's a real tough one.
I'm excited.
Mema Njongimeta.
Nailed it.
I think that's it. That's just going completely phonetically. I clicked on the Wikipedia and there was no pronunciation help, which really was upsetting. But he led the whole Bengals roster in snaps. He played 44 snaps last night. Some snaps with the starters. He was out there with the ones and with the twos. So that's a guy that a lot of people didn't have on the Bengals, projected 53-man. And I think with the way they looked at him yesterday, or on Saturday. I got to get used to them playing on Saturday. I keep saying yesterday because it's Monday. But the way he looked on Saturday, I think they really have some high hopes for him. At least they're optimistic with how he could look because, they had him out there with the ones. They at least wanted to see how he meshed with those defensive players that are actually going to be playing in the meaningful games. So I'm excited about him. He looked pretty good. He had some good tackles. So he could be an interesting piece to add to that linebacker depth.
Yeah, I agree with you. I thought he looked really, really good. I'm going to also give his name a go. Njongimeta?
Maybe.
Njongimeta,
definitely possible.
Sounds right.
The linebacker room as a whole, though, Wilson, Pratt, Akeem Davis-Gaither, and then you're looking at Joe Bocci and maybe, I guess, they have Jeff Gunter here is listed as a linebacker. That's not right. But Njongimeta, I mean, I think he could easily fight for that 4th spot.
We lost Marcus Bailey, and he played a decent amount in rotational linebacker reps. So we're going to need someone else to take that role.
Special teams,
right?
Yeah. Really liked what I saw from him. I agree with you. I think the other thing too, on if we're just going to stick with defense, that I really love to see is just Myles Murphy.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he absolutely crushed that quarterback. Trask just obliterated him. He had 4 or 5 pressures.
Oh yeah.
Loved seeing that. Makes me feel a little more confident about the edge rushers moving forward.
The interception was a Myles Murphy, Joseph Ossai sandwich at the quarterback. So that was phenomenal to see from both those guys.
Secondary, any takeaways, of course, with Dax and some of those guys?
Dax had one bad play, and since it was one-on-one in coverage on the outside, it sticks out in everyone's head. It was the only reception he allowed. He had 3 pass breakups, which is the most of his career. It's a third of the pass breakups he's had in his career. So I really do think he played well in his first professional game, lined up at outside corner the entire time. It's just the one 20-yard catch in open field. That's what's going to stick out in everyone's mind. But he was graded pretty well. I really was encouraged by what I saw from him at the outside corner position, which is not where I would have him. I never really had a whole lot of faith in him as an outside corner. I thought he was going to be a rotational safety or a third corner, a slot corner. But it was very encouraging on Saturday to see him out there on the outside.
Yeah, he looked really good. To me, if he just gets his head around, he might even break up that pass or pick it off. Like, he was in position most of the day. I mean, I don't think he really was caught out of position at all. I think he just didn't get his head around, which he'll eventually get that. He'll pick that up. It's just a new position for him, right? It's something a little more foreign to him that he's going to just have to relearn how to do. And to me, I thought he caught the interception, to be honest with you. I thought he caught it. So I think that position battle is up for grabs now, a little more than what it was before. Clearly, DJ Turner was ahead in that battle by quite a bit. He only had 10 snaps on the day, so they were really giving Dax Hill some reps there. And I think he blew up that battle wide open now. I think it could be anyone's position at this point. We'll have to wait and see what they look like against the Bears, because that's who they're playing next. And I don't know if Caleb Williams and the starters are going to play, but that would be a great test for them. That's Keenan Allen. That's DJ Moore. That's a really good offense right now. So I would love to see them, what they look like against that offense. But overall, great to see the secondary. It looked solid. I loved what we saw from rookie Josh Newton, too, with the interception. I thought
helps him that he has a cool nickname too.
Yeah, Fig Newton.
Yeah, Fig Newton's real cool.
Love Fig Newton. Dijon Anthony, he got banged up, but it was like a busted nose, but he looked pretty solid too at the safety spot. I liked what I saw a lot from the secondary.
All right, good stuff. The Cincinnati Bengals wrapped up their preseason opener against Tampa Bay over the weekend. As you mentioned, they'll have the Chicago Bears coming up on Saturday, and then they'll close out the preseason against the Colts on August 22nd. But still a lot more preseason remaining before, of course, the season kicks off on September 8th. The Bengals and the Patriots. All right, you're watching Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. Justin Kinner, we got Casey McAllister, Elliot Rearing, and Jacob Tissett with you here. I hope everybody had a great weekend. The Bengals not the only team in preseason action over the weekend. We got a chance to see a lot of the rookie quarterbacks that, of course, we talked so much about heading into this most recent draft. And it was interesting seeing the team's approach to how they were throwing their rookies out there. Some threw them out with the starters. The Vikings did something a little different. My view on how the Vikings are handling J.J. McCarthy is a little different now. I kind of like what they're doing. I'll explain coming up. But when we come back, more takeaways from the preseason, not just the Bengals, but teams across the league. More Off the Bench when we come back. All right, and we are back off the bench. Dairy Farmers, Justin Kinner, Casey McAllister, Elliot Rearing, Jacob Tissett with you here on a Monday. Hope everyone had a great weekend. Bengals not the only team in preseason, though. That was in action over the weekend. I know you were at the Bengals game, but how much of the preseason games did you really dive into? I know
I watched a lot.
Thursday night, was out right away. It was pretty cool watching the Steelers and the Texans.
Yeah. Justin Fields let me down a little bit. I was hoping he was going to, grab a stranglehold of that QB1 role in Pittsburgh, but he had a classic Justin Fields game, if you will. I think there were 4 or 5 throws that I'm not sure many other quarterbacks in the league could make, and then he reverse spun into 3 third down sacks and fumbled 2 snaps. So, it was about as Justin Fields as a game can get. It was pretty upsetting to see, just because everything coming out of camp with him was that he had, taken massive steps. He was attacking the middle of the field. He was, leaning into that quarterback 1 role, but that did not seem to be the case. So that was pretty upsetting there. But, everything else from the weekend was, my main takeaway was that the rookie quarterbacks across the league looked phenomenal. Drake May only played one series. He looked fine. And then Joe Milton came in and had some highlight plays in that Thursday night game for the Patriots. And then over the weekend, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, J.J. McCarthy, and Bo Nix, all 4 had phenomenal first games. They all 4 looked great. I'm very high on most of this quarterback class, so that was exciting to see, considering that, I've bought a lot of stock with my takes on these guys.
Yep.
So Caleb was very encouraging. Jaden looked phenomenal as well. So I'm really excited for these guys. I think a lot of them are in great situations for rookie quarterbacks, and I'm excited to see them succeed.
Yeah. I didn't watch a ton of preseason football. I want to make that very clear. But, again, I was unfortunately unable to watch pretty much all of the Bengals game. I did have a question for the Bengals boys, though. I was box score watching, as Casey likes to do with the Reds. Rushing game, obviously hard to take a full grasp of it when not everybody plays the entire time. But 30 yards, the Bengals mustered up.
I think we hate it. I think we hate running the football.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what it is?
I think just as a team, we hate it.
Yeah.
Which is fine.
We already kind of knew what the MO was going to be going into this anyways with Chase Brown and Zach Moss. It's not going to be grinding out like Mixon was 3-4 yards every time you run the ball. It's going to be 1 to 2 yards, get stuffed in the backfield quite a bit, and then rip it for 8-9 yards, which is what happened when the starters were out there with Chase Brown. And like I said, it's hard to really judge this offense with how poorly the offensive line played the rest of the time, which I liked what I saw from, like I said, Amarius Mims, and I touched on this on Tom's show. I thought Orlando Brown Jr. had a really solid block. They're going to probably run outside the tackles or right behind the tackles majority of the time if they want to get some massive gains. The inside, I think, is still a little suspect. But we'll see how that plays out because they graded Volson and Kappa very, very well. I haven't seen all the film yet of it to see what it looks like, but from what I saw, it looked like the tackles did a really good job in the run game.
Yeah, Mims was phenomenal. He only played 13 plays, but he was just out there eating people up. So
Yep.
A little bit vindicated on Mims not being a project. So good one.
Yeah,
Casey.
we're gonna cash that one out.
Yeah.
Or maybe he's just, I don't know. I'm gonna sit back. No, the guy's freaking massive. And the other thing about the run game, real quick, that's hard to evaluate in preseason when you're moving in so many parts because the run game too. A lot of it is, especially early on in the game, you're just trying to wear teams down with the run game a little bit and what limited times that the Bengals do rush the football, of course. But again, when you look at where they're financially prioritizing their dollars, it's not going to be in the run game outside of course, the big guys up front. So you want to get contributions from your running backs. Yes, I just don't think you're going to see that in limited capacity in the preseason. But again, as a whole, as you talked about, that number is what jumped off the page, and that's why they lost the game.
Yeah, of course.
You can't run the football; you're not going to win games.
No, why they lost
especially
the
in
game was
preseason.
a bull crap pass interference call and an uncatchable ball. But I'm not going to get worked up about the preseason.
You can't get worked up about the preseason.
I'm not going to get worked up about the preseason. But that was not even that ref's call to make. There was another ref standing under the goalpost in the back of the end zone. They had a much better view.
They were just having fun out there. Let the boys be boys. Zach Moss, I know, was unavailable to play due to illness as well, so it's probably another reason why the run game struggled. I don't know when that decision was made, but or when that call was made. So yeah, they looked good. I thought the starters looked good for their possession, for their drive, and then I like Burton. Burton's my guy now. Burton's my guy.
Roll Tide.
Wide receiver 3. Good all-time good guy though. He's a good guy.
Stand-up individual.
Yep.
As long as you don't storm the field.
Yep.
Just leave him alone.
He's a man of many morals, so this is our guy.
I don't know how many, but there's a few.
There's a couple of them, and yeah, I'm excited.
He's a ball player.
Over under half a snap Jamar takes during this preseason.
So far under.
So far under?
As far under as I can go.
Damn.
So the offense being as explosive as it is, the first drive, touchdown to T. T. Higgins, for one, I was joking with you earlier before the show. I'm like, T's probably just sitting back saying, Jamar, if you just want to take your time, I don't mind, getting all the yards, all the touchdowns, and going to get paid next. He's going to get paid, but he's in that second-tier wide receiver money range right now. He would love to get into that, upper tier, that top tier, right? But I just don't know. Trying to evaluate, the explosiveness of the offense, there's no urgency that you want Jamar Chase back, don't get me wrong, but, is there an urgency that he needs to be back at a certain point? Because I just think this team's so explosive offensively. They want him out there, don't get me wrong, but I don't think anyone's losing sleep if all of a sudden this takes a turn and there's some drama that maybe takes him away from the team for a bit if that is the case.
I think it's about the 10-day mark, about 2 weeks. About 2 weeks before week 1, that's when I would get really, really upset about this holdout because I don't care about the preseason. I don't think he needs the snaps. I think it could actually be beneficial for him not to be out there.
Yep.
Get, Yoshi and Burton and, whoever else we want to mix in there with the ones and Joe as many reps as we can. We know what Jamar Chase can do out there. So I don't think that's the worst thing. But I think it is absolutely crucial for him to have a week plus of training camp reps just to get his feet back under him, get ready to go. I'm not acting like Jamar's going to go out there in week 1 against the Patriots and stink if, he doesn't practice this offseason. He sat out the entire COVID season of college football and then was drafted 5th overall and had one of the best rookie seasons we've ever seen. So I'm not too worried about Jamar sitting out, but because of all the stuff we've talked about before about how crucial it's been that Joe's missed camp over the last couple of years and how crucial he has said himself that it has been for those connections with the wide receivers, I would really, really like to see Jamar out there for at least a week or so before the regular season.
Yeah,
I don't disagree with that at all. The timetable to me, it feels like the best time would be like that week or – is it a week? When was Jesse Bates? When did he come back? Was it a week and a half?
It was right about a week. I don't know. It was maybe it was a week and a half, but it was after that third preseason game. So
that's what I expect.
Yeah. I don't think that's wrong at all.
They played starters, which is more, especially on that offensive side, more than what we've seen from Zach Taylor in the past. Other teams had different approaches. Some teams played their starters the full first quarter. I'm not knocking Zach Taylor for what he did. I just, if you're going to play him for the full first quarter. But again, I really don't have a take on this at this moment. But is that the last we see of Joe Burrow for the preseason, do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I think if we were going to see any more of him, we would have played longer. That's just, I don't know.
Then why even throw him out there to begin with?
I don't know for sure. I think
I'm not
throw the fans
annoyed.
bone.
Okay, fair enough.
Legitimately, I think that's partially.
There's just not a right or wrong. He's gonna get killed anyway he does it if something bad goes wrong. So I think he threw us, as Jacob just said, threw the fans something to watch. 60-something thousand people got to watch Joe Burrow. Post wrist surgery, everybody was worried about it. And yeah, so I don't think it's a big deal not to play him. Similarly to what Jacob just said about Jamar Chase, we know who Joe Burrow is. We know what he is. Not playing or playing in the preseason doesn't really change it. I think the biggest aspect of the preseason is having that offensive line work together.
Yes.
And that's what we need to focus on. Not so much can Joe Burrow still play football, which we all know he can.
I would love to see Trent out there at some point.
Yep. We need just the offense. I just want the offensive line. If the offensive line can give me protection for Joe Burrow, that's all I need. And the defense, obviously, because the defense, after last season, disgraceful.
Yeah, one of the things I've seen a lot of people wanting to see more of the starters play in the preseason. I could care less now at this point because we have 2 joint practices coming up with the Bears and with the Colts. They're going to get they're going to get the competitive snaps that they need in practice, maybe even more than we want, to be honest with you, to have 2 joint practices in the preseason. I don't think I've ever heard of that before until this season. So I was a little shocked by that when I was kind of listening to Tom talk about this. But yeah, I'm not worried about our starters going out there the rest of the preseason. I think it was just like a dog bone, just, let the fans get what they want for a little bit, a little taste of Joe Burrow in the preseason, get them excited again, and we'll be good to go. I think that they're going to get some really good competitive snaps with the Colts, who are more geared towards like run defense and strong running game, whereas the Bears are more pass-oriented. I think there's a good mixture there. And good challenges for both sides of the ball. So
yeah, it's also important to remember right now that the Bengals have 4 quarterbacks on their roster.
Yeah,
they're certainly not going to keep 4 quarterbacks. So Joe's probably going to play less to give the opportunity, have Jake Browning take those starter reps and then work those other 3 guys in there to figure out who you're going to cut. So for just roster reasons as well, I think it's important to not play the starters as much, just to make sure you're getting the right guys on the 53-man and not letting any studs walk.
And the bottom line too is, if we're talking at any point about Jake Browning in depth throughout the season, something's gone wrong. But at the end of the day, it's important that he does get a lot of reps right now, as far as that's concerned. And I'm not advocating for Burrow to play during the preseason. It was interesting seeing all the different teams approach. You would tune into multiple or various preseason games over the weekend. Some starters were out there for the full first quarter, others just to drive. Some didn't play at all. Cleveland didn't play any of their main guys as far as that's concerned. So multiple approaches. Like you said, Elliot, I don't think there's a right or a wrong way, but no matter what way anyone gets hurt, it's the coach's fault, right?
100%.
Like, that's just how it goes, right or wrong, as far as that's concerned. All right, other preseason games. You talked about the rookie quarterbacks that you were kind of keeping an eye on. Caleb Williams, 4-7 for 95 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, but, man, he had this rollout to the right that threw across his body, connected. I've been vocal saying I'm not going to buy into him yet. I think the hype's too much, but then you see that skill set just on display. That skill set on display when you don't have weapons around you is why I probably wouldn't buy in as much, but I keep forgetting he has about as golden of an opportunity as any rookie quarterback in the history of the league has had. He's coming into almost a finished product as far as not a whole lot of holes on that offensive side of the ball. So we got to see glimpses of that. I think Caleb Williams, I don't want to go back on my word or my take too much, but it was I don't care about the stats. It was just the throws that he was making, avoiding, sacks from here and there, getting on the rollout and then throwing and completing on the run. I thought he looked really, really good from a tangible standpoint.
Yeah, I've had the long-standing take in football and football scouting that if a guy has never stunk at any point in his entire life, he's probably not going to start stinking when he gets to
Correct.
the NFL. Caleb's one of the best high school quarterbacks we've ever seen playing at Gonzaga in the D.C. area, and then he went to Oklahoma. And he comes in as a true freshman behind Spencer Rattler, who was another really hyped high school quarterback. And he takes over in the Texas game, and he has a 60-yard touchdown run, and he leads Oklahoma to a respectable season after starting off pretty slow that year with Rattler at quarterback. And then he follows Lincoln Riley to USC from Oklahoma, and he wins the Heisman as a junior or as a sophomore, and then he comes back as his junior year with very, very little help around him and still competes in most games. He still loses a lot of close games. And that's when you see a lot of the emotion that a lot of people don't seem to love about Caleb Williams. But he was really competitive, and he put up very impressive numbers. So at no point in Caleb Williams' life has he been anything short of an outstanding top-shelf quarterback. And I really just don't see any way that changes in the NFL.
Yeah, and then you look, J.J. McCarthy, 11-17, 188 yards, 2 touchdowns and a pick for the Vikings. And then Bo Nix, probably the most impressive stat line of all the rookie quarterbacks over the weekend. Again, 15-21, 125 yards and a touchdown, four scoring drives that led to 2 touchdowns and 2 field goals. The one thing I'll say about J.J. McCarthy, because I've just buried the kid just because I don't like how he went on to win a national championship. But
he meditates, though.
At first I've been adamant that I think it's silly, the fact that they've come out and said Sam Darnold's the starter. Obviously, you don't draft J.J. McCarthy, in my opinion, for Sam Darnold to be the starter. I actually think J.J. McCarthy will be the starter for week 1. I actually think the approach is, let's not throw him out there with the starters right off the bat. Let's get his confidence rolling. Let's put him in a position to have the ability to go out and make plays against second-string defense, third-string defenses, which is what he did. He didn't do all this against starters. He did it against the second- and third-string defenses as far as that's concerned. I think it's part of a plan for them to kind of ease him into the starting position, and I don't think it's ease him in come regular season. I think we'll potentially see him start this next preseason game. My hot take, if you will, I think he's the Vikings starting quarterback week 1.
And I don't think that would necessarily be a terrible move. I am a little bit more pro sitting him, starting someone else at first, just because I don't necessarily believe in a lot of the pieces the Vikings have. I think they're towards the bottom of that division in almost every position group, except for wide receiver. Obviously, their weapons are incredible, but they struggle at a lot of other places. So I don't necessarily know how I feel about throwing JJ into the fire, because I really do think he has a lot to learn when it comes to throwing the ball, because they rely on the run so heavily in college. And I don't necessarily blame him for that, like a lot of other people do. I think there's a lot of really, really good college quarterbacks that if you had Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards in your backfield, you would throw the ball a lot less. I understand that, if J.J. McCarthy had a more talented arm, they would have thrown the ball more. So there's a give and take there, with how you look at their play calling. But, yeah, I really am confident in J.J. I think the more time he has to get comfortable with the offense, get comfortable with his weapons, the better he'll be when he comes in. But even if he does come in week 1, I think the floor is pretty high.
Yeah, and his one big mistake, just looking at the box score, and I saw the interception, he's just a little off, right? I think that's a correctable throw, and if he just throws it a little more outside, that's a complete pass. So it's I think he did really well for his first preseason game. I thought some of those balls were really pretty. Thought he made some ugly throws, but I think there's time that if he sits, he's going to have plenty of time to develop those skills to get just a little bit more refined. I think he's just very raw. I think he makes a lot of good decisions, but he's just really raw right now. And that's when you see the bad interceptions when he's rolling out to his right. It's just,
Yeah, while we're on bad preseason interceptions, I'm going to take a chance to take a stab at one of my least favorite players of all time, Stetson Bennett.
There we go.
4 preseason interceptions for Stetson Bennett.
How's that possible?
Glad he's playing in the preseason this year. Last year he had a little debacle that kept him out of it. It was a little DUI, whoopsie daisy.
Was that what that was?
Yeah, had to go to rehab. Oh, darn. But 4 interceptions in this game. I think it's important to remember he won 2 national championships at Georgia, playing with 2 of the most stacked defenses of all time. And in 2021, that Georgia offense was George Pickens, A.D. Mitchell, Lad McConkey, and Jermaine Burton. So maybe Stetson Bennett, not that good.
Ooh, tough. By the way, are you guys, not to go back to the Bears thing, are you shocked that they have one more win since July 10th than the White Sox? They have 2 wins since July 10th.
That's awesome.
The White Sox have 1 win.
Championship caliber city.
Awesome.
Right there. As far, man, the White Sox, they lose more over the weekend, I'm assuming?
They lost to the Cubs, didn't play yesterday. Lost to the Cubs both games, didn't play yesterday.
So when you don't play, you win, technically.
I guess. That's the motto they live by.
That's brutal.
Get your Bulls season tickets today.
That's right.
That ain't trending in the right direction either. I mean, they're looking to move on for Zach LaVine and
they can't pay someone to take Zach LaVine. They're trying to give Zach LaVine and a first to teams, and the teams are saying no.
See, the offensive numbers in the NBA have exploded so much that you can't even give away a guy that can average almost close to 30 points a game.
No.
That's what's wild.
Well, they're paying him $70 million a year or whatever a supermax double secret contract is that they have in the NBA.
That'll do it every time. Last thing as we wrap this up, by the way, the most impressive rookie quarterback of week 1 of preseason was whom?
I'm going to go Jaden Daniels. I think Jaden Daniels is the answer for me. He had a couple great runs, and then that throw down the sideline was absolutely beautiful. But I don't think you can go wrong with any answer here.
Yeah, I saw the one play from Caleb, so I'm going to go Caleb. I thought that was pretty sick, but other than that, I didn't watch too much preseason football.
Ooh, as
long as you don't say Bo Nix, we're good.
I was going to be the contrarian and go Bo Nix.
No.
I think he just... Yeah, I'm just being the contrarian, to be honest with you. I guess I'll go Caleb Williams. I think he just looks like the real deal. Some of those throws on the run, on the money already. That one pass to Swift kind of goes unnoticed, but that's not an easy throw to make when you're getting pressured and you're throwing across your body like that. I think that's a underrated play that he made in preseason on Saturday, Sunday. I don't know which day they played, but I'm going to go with Caleb Williams as well.
I might change my answer to Bo Nix.
Well, I want to know why no to Bo Nix?
I hate Bo Nix.
Just as simple as that?
Auburn.
Just as simple as that.
Yeah.
15 for 21, 125 yards, 1 touchdown.
Yeah, I found out he had a kid, transferred to Oregon.
Man,
we're just getting personal. We're just getting personal with quarterbacks we don't know.
If he did yoga, man, that would just be the final.
Now we'll never get Bo Nix on the show. Or Stetson Bennett.
Maybe, Bo Nix, new coach. He's happy. He's having fun. Maybe he's a dark horse to win the Heisman. Remember when they said that?
Yeah, I do remember
30
that.
picks.
By the way, you did see Georgia yesterday. They tweeted out after Stetson Bennett has the 4 interceptions, but of course he throws the game-winning
touchdown.
So they repost that and they said Bennett with the game winner or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm like, of all the highlights, you go with that one. Who would have thunk it? There you go. But off the bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers, Justin Kinner, Casey McAllister, Elliot Rearing, Jacob Tissett with you here on a Monday. Hope everybody had a great weekend. Elliot Rearing is going to get us caught up with Elliot's headlines coming up when we return. Don't go anywhere.
Yeah, can we blind rank offensive lines?
All right, welcome back. Off the bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. Of course, talked a lot of NFL preseason football to open up. A lot of your Cincinnati Bengals. Don't care if you guys are making fun of the fact that it's preseason football. I do have to say, I don't think we would have spent as much time on preseason football had the league not actually had so many teams play a good chunk of their starters. I do think when there was the 4 preseason games, the pattern was no starters at all in the first one. little bit of time in the second preseason game. They would actually, most teams would play their starters for at least the full first quarter, first half of the third, and then no one play in the fourth. It's been interesting seeing how teams have readapted with the 3 preseason games, considering you have that bye week, if you will, after the final preseason, week off, and then, of course, week 1, the regular season's here. But, yeah, more starters played in this preseason week 1 than in any time in recent history.
Yeah, no, it was great. It's nice to get into football a little bit earlier than before. It's certainly easier when you know the guys that are out there.
100%. I wonder if it's a league memo thing. If Rodgers pushing playing starters more, at least like for the first week, get people going, get people engaged. I obviously, there's no way of knowing that, but if I was Roger Goodell, I'd be like, yeah, if you don't mind, everybody play your starter for the first drive.
Even nudge the defenses a little bit, like, hey, let's not lay out the Mahomes of the world.
Just be a little nice. We'll just have fun with it. That first drive, possession.
Yeah. I don't hate that. That's a good idea.
I think
maybe it happened.
Maybe they did it. But yeah, I don't watch preseason football really that too much, just because I'm not in the trenches when it comes to the Bengals' third and fourth stringers. So it's just never appealed to me. But nonetheless, I am also very excited for football. Cannot wait. When does college football start?
15 days.
15 days.
Not from Saturday. So
I see. All right, so we're almost there. We're almost there, gentlemen. A couple more weeks.
Yep.
Maybe the Reds can give us a 12-game winning streak.
What if they don't lose?
Still on the
starts.
That would be sick.
That would be so much fun.
But I have some news for you.
What?
They're gonna lose.
What if? But what if they don't?
But they will. That's the crazy. Do they play the Brewers from now?
Do you see how close we are in the wild card standings, though?
They made up a
6 games again.
They made up a half game over the weekend.
We made up a game.
What a joke. Oh, by the way, all they had to do was just not get swept to terrible teams, and I'd be all the way back in. But they get swept, so
that's right.
There's no way of knowing. It's time for headlines, though.
Elliot loves 3 things: Joey Votto, David Bell, and leading off the bench with top headlines.
That's right. The Reds, they win a game. They won a Sunday game specifically yesterday. It's the first time they've won a Sunday game since June 2nd, since they when they beat the Chicago Cubs at Wrigley Field. How about that little fun nugget? They don't win on Sundays, the Lord's Day. Tyler Stevenson
They're like Chick-fil-A. They take the Sunday
That's
off.
right. Tyler Stevenson went 2 for 3 with a home run. Shout out to Tyler Stevenson. Santiago Espinal. How about this guy?
He's an all-star.
All-star. Santiago All-Star. He is heating up 2 big RBIs, 2 hits. His average is now 249 for the year when it seemed like he was at 180 for a long time. So good for Santiago Espinal. That's another good signing, Nick Krall. I like how we just say Nick Krall, too, when he's not the GM anymore. I do like blaming everything on Nick Krall when he's no longer the general manager. But nonetheless, I'm going to continue to do it. Nick Lodolo still finding himself after that IL stint. A better outing, I guess. 5 1/3, 3 hits, 3 earned runs, 4 strikeouts. Still not the Nick Lodolo we saw pre that blister, I guess is what we're calling it, the blister IL stint. But certainly a little bit better yesterday. The Reds, of course, lose that series to the Brewers, mustering up 7 whole runs in 3 games. Here's some fun nuggets. They have now lost 9 series in a row against Milwaukee. They have lost 34 of their last 46 games against the Brewers. The Reds are 8-42 when they score 3 runs or less. The Reds are 8-32 when they do not hit a home run, and they are 9-21 in 1-run games. Just some fun little nuggets about the 2024 Reds. Yeah, it is. They're back at it tonight against the Cardinals. Sonny Gray comes back to town to face Andrew Abbott. Gray is 11-6 with a 3.65 ERA, 153 strikeouts, and a 1.07 whip. Andrew Abbott 9-9, 3.7, 104 strikeouts. We'll see if the Reds can beat the Cardinals. Hopefully they can. Elsewhere around the league, Angels take care of the Nats 6-4. The Yankees, they hold on for dear life, winning 8-7 over the Rangers, as Stanton, Soto, and Judge, the big 3, all hit home runs. Astros humiliate the Red Sox 10-2. The Athletics stomp on the Blue Jays 8-4. The Rays, they edged out the Orioles to avoid a sweep. The Marlins win 7-6 to snap the Padres' 7-game winning streak. Mariners crush the Mets 12-1. And the Dodgers sweep the Pirates, winning 6-5 yesterday. Pirates have lost 9 of their last 10 games. Rockies beat the Braves yesterday and win that series. Braves have lost 7 of their last 8 games. So tough. NFL preseason we touched on, and Eagles beat the Ravens 16-13. Former Bengal John Ross, 3 catches for 28 yards.
He's back. The amount of anger I will have in my body
if he's
good.
good.
An even remotely acceptable NFL player.
No, he won't be.
It won't even. You can't calculate.
He won't be. Jags beat KC 26-13. Seahawks take care of the Chargers 16-3. And as we've already discussed, Bengals fall to the Buccaneers 17-14. Burrow 5 for 7, 51 yards and a touchdown. Chase Brown five times. He carried the ball for 10 yards. Not great. Jermaine Burton looked good. 3 balls for 82 yards and a touchdown. T. Higgins, again, as we already mentioned, caught a touchdown. Olympics. The U.S. won the total medal count by 35, tied China at 40 with the most gold medals, so they still won that.
Tiebreakers, silvers. So.
Oh, so we won.
We did win.
USA.
Okay, so
USA.
we were just the best. And then
we would have won the gold medal count outright if Noah Lyles would have just not got bronze.
That's correct.
Basketball did their part.
Basketball did their part. FC Cincinnati, shout out to Santos Laguna. They win. FC Cincinnati wins 6-5 in penalties to advance.
Heartbreaker for Laguna plus 600 bettors. Me.
To advance further in whatever that tournament is. Casey, thoughts on the FC Cincinnati?
Leagues Cup, yeah, that was close. I guess now they are gonna actually start trying in this cup. The first couple games they didn't play any of their starters. Now they're starting to trickle in those guys. Acosta was still sitting on the bench towards late in that game, and then he eventually comes in, but wasn't able to make a difference before it went into penalties. We'll see where they go from here. They're in the round 16. They play Philadelphia Union tomorrow. I expect that they play most of their starters and try to win this thing. I mean, they're close enough now. Might as well try to win the whole thing. So
win the whole thing.
Win
the whole effing thing.
For the MLS.
Because this is the
for America.
championship.
Leagues Cup, not the championship.
Do we want to win this?
It's a nice trophy to have. Don't you like trophies?
Can you win both?
Yeah, you can win both. You can win Leagues Cup and the championship.
Well, yeah, like you can win the President's Cup and the Stanley Cup, but never that happens. Like if we win the Leagues Cup, are we screwed?
No.
Okay.
I think we're screwed a little bit.
We're not screwed. I don't think we're screwed.
I think we are. I think we're in a tough spot as FC Cincinnati fans here.
I'm a little nervous, I'm not going to lie.
I'm cheering for them to lose out of this tournament so they can stay hot.
Well, I mean, you don't want to lose because then you won't be hot.
Well, these are just the backups anyway, so they get hot.
Well, no, apparently they're playing starters now.
They're going to start playing. Yeah.
They brought their starters into the game to take the penalty kicks.
That's correct.
Are we talking preseason again, or is this soccer? I'm confused.
About what now?
Is this preseason talk again, or is this?
Well, everything about the MLS is preseason.
Yes.
Oh.
It's just
Where
all
starters
it's the whole
rarely
thing
play.
is before the season.
This is wild.
I thought they did great. I watched it, Casey.
I did too, because the bar I was at
start to
refused to put the Reds game on.
Same here.
You watched it start to finish?
I did. It was on the TV, and I was there from start to finish.
Very nice. Did you enjoy it?
No.
Not 1 minute. By the time I got to see the Reds game, they were down 6-0.
Seriously. I did like the PKs, though. Go straight. Every game should be ending in PKs right away.
They should shorten the game to like 40 minutes and then just go PKs.
Or just do PKs
just
right
for
away.
an hour.
I do have the take that PKs would be way more entertaining at the end of every game. Way more entertaining. If you can't figure out a winner, just do it.
I think it's by far the most fun
every
round.
time.
Oh yeah,
that's awesome.
Oh yeah. Well, not see, but then it gets tricky because sometimes they miss every time. I watched a game. It was that.
Those aren't very good teams.
Well, no. It was Argentina versus Uruguay. I think they did PKs, or one of them. Argentina versus somebody, and they missed each team missed 4 or 3 of the 5 penalty kicks.
Wow.
It was very interesting.
Yeah, not good. Argentina, they stink.
Yeah, Lionel Messi, notorious bad player.
Bad player.
We all miss Jimmy, but I feel like you miss Jimmy more in these situations to have another
voice in the room. Yeah, that's dearly miss him already. It's an empty seat over there.
Yeah, I was watching FC Cincinnati with Jimmy on whatever that was Friday
Really?
night, and yeah, he was trying to get me to care about the outcome of that game, and then he was so annoying about it. I bet on the other team.
Yeah, tough scenes. Tough scenes.
Somebody won at least.
I didn't bet on the game, but I should have bet on the game.
Nonetheless. All right. Off the bench. Presented by United Dairy Farmers. Chatterbox Sports on YouTube. 1410 ESPN Radio in Dayton. Did that wrap up Elliot's headlines?
I did. There's no more headlines. Well, I mean, there was a couple things. Jacob brought it to my attention. I looked it up. Matt Kuchar in the Wyndham Open, I believe is what that's called.
Scumbag.
So Matt Kuchar was tied for 12th heading into his last hole. And I guess he elected, with 2 shots left to play for his day, he was halfway through the final hole, he elected to say, you know what, too dark outside, we'll take a rain check.
The rest of his group finished.
The rest of his group finished. He said, you know what, too dark for me, I'm staying out. And I believe it wasn't really for anything. It was for, now granted, if he would have bogeyed, it would have been a loss of $58,000. I don't know what that means to a guy who's made $60 million in his career. But nonetheless, there was a $58,000 difference. And I believe there was something with FedEx points. But I think he was eliminated from the FedEx. So I don't understand why he was being such a jerk about it. But he elected to come back out today, this morning, and finish his hole, his round.
Did Karma get him?
The rest of the what?
Did Karma get him?
No, he finished tied 12th.
Oh. He finished tied for 12th. So it was, I guess, beneficial for him, so he can pay his caddy the bare minimum, and whatever, he can have it. But it's I've never seen that ever.
Yeah, insane.
The rest of your group finishes out the hole, and you come back out not even close to contention on the final day. And you're going to be like, you know what? We're going to wait for this tournament's championship tomorrow. I'll decide when it's over.
8 to 8:05 this morning, the Wyndham Championship.
Tough.
Well, did you hear that?
He did a whole range session, too.
Oh, yeah.
He did a full range session for his 2 shots.
That's a full day at the office right there. More golf news, by the way. I don't know if you saw this, but Liv, they have morals. They have rules.
I saw this.
Nasal decongestant is what they suspended. I believe his name is Graham McDowell. Liv suspends Graham McDowell for using a banned nasal decongestant. There's a lot of things that, the owners of Liv are okay with, but nasal decongestant is where they draw the line when it comes to morals of the Liv tournament.
That's right.
Tough. If I'm going to be honest, I didn't know Liv actually had rules. Like banned substance rules. I thought it was just a free-for-all. I thought it was just, you could literally do whatever you want. Yeah, that's what I would think, too. Why are we promoting fair play whenever he's getting $200 trillion? So, this is shout out to Graham McDowell, the first player ever to get suspended. Maybe he's hoping like that'll null that contract. He can just come right back to the tour.
So they suspend him for just one tournament and fined him $125,000 for using a nasal decongestant that contained a banned substance. The league announced on Sunday. Now it's levothyroxine. I don't even know what the heck it is as far as what Yeah,
it's got to be super soldier serum to get.
Suspension.
That's insane.
The Live Golf League has 14 events per season. I imagine Graham McDowell is making, I don't know, $10 million roughly. Maybe even more than that. So they just gave him a paid vacation to miss another one of their weeks?
Basically. Look,
those contracts were all guaranteed, weren't they?
Oh, yeah. There's no,
I would just try to get suspended every week.
Oh, he doesn't get to play for the Aces?
Oh, he did illegal drugs and now gets $10 million to sleep on his couch.
Oh,
nasal
damn.
decongestant was the so McDowell releases a statement, by the way. Ahead of Live Nashville, I was struggling with severe congestion that was affecting my sleep. In an effort to manage it, I used a generic Vicks nasal decongestant without realizing it might be on the banned list. Hold on. Of all the nasal decongestants out there, I could see if you use some kind of generic brand, you're in a little, small town, little mom and pop shop, some little brand you've never heard of, but Vicks, you can't use Vicks nasal decongestant in Live?
Yeah, that's crazy.
I don't get it. I don't know what I'm very curious to see what other banned substances are.
We're gonna look this up. I'm
kind of
curious
NyQuil.
Too. Yeah, I was gonna say.
No Vicks products.
No Tylenol. You got a headache. Sorry, you just got to power through that in your bed of money.
But by the way, this statement is what we kind of wanted from our guy with the Cincinnati Reds, the juicer, as you always call him.
That's correct.
He didn't say, I don't know how it got in there. He just said, my bad. Yeah, I took Vicks and I didn't pay attention to what was on there. That's on me. I apologize. But he didn't say, well, I don't know. I wasn't feeling good. I magically started feeling good. I guess I must have had Vicks and off I went. I don't really know what happened
They
there.
magically got in his system.
It happens.
We know it can happen.
It happens.
Well, we know you can say it.
All right, Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers, Chatterbox Sports on YouTube, 1410 ESPN Radio in Dayton. We'll step away for a few moments. When we come back, a little buy or sell. Let's see what our buy or sells involve. One of them involves Jermaine Burton. All right, we'll talk about Jermaine Burton when we come back. Anthony Edwards and the United States men's basketball team for the next Olympics. We'll talk about that. Brandon Ayuk He's a part of this as well, and of course Reed's Chicago Cubs. So
Brandon Ayuk hates the Browns.
There's a lot to.
Hates the Browns.
I'm sure I saw you guys. I as soon as I read it, and I'm like, f these guys. I ain't gonna check my phone for the weekend. More off the bench when we come back. Buy or sell next.
All right. You know what time it is? It is ads. Ads. We love the ads. We got to pay the bills around here. We'll start with Pawnee Water. Made right here in Hamilton, Ohio. Uses natural limestone filtration, unlike the artificial processing other brands use. The result being a healthy alkaline water, and some say the best tasting water in the world. Visit Pawnee Water at PAHHNIwater.com so you can buy this great tasting water. And we got Encore Technologies. The Bengals report, this preseason report, was brought to you by Encore Technologies. At Encore Technologies, we deliver cutting-edge IT solutions for a data-driven world, from mobile computing and desktop support to advanced data center solutions. We help businesses enhance efficiency and productivity. Visit encore.tech, where your path to innovation begins. Here, there, everywhere.
That just didn't hit the same.
It did not hit the same whatsoever. I feel empty inside.
That's right, Jimbo.
That's right, Jimbo. Game Time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code OTB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code OTB for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. I know personally, we just use the Game Time app to go get Reds tickets, right? So we're going to be sitting at the Reds game today. I plan on maybe using it for this Wednesday. I'm very excited to use it for Bengals season. Lots of great deals. Look at the Bengals tickets right now. There's lots of great deals for pretty much any of the first 5 weeks of the season. There's also preseason deals as well. Like you could get in this last preseason game for $5, $10. So yeah, you can see exactly where it's sitting at. They always have great deals. And like I said, last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed.
I game timed for Wednesday. I'm gonna go watch some tennis.
There we go.
Nice.
I'm gonna go do that tennis.
I was gonna try to go to tennis too this week, perhaps Thursday. I don't know what the schedule is this week yet, so I was gonna try to go Thursday because the tennis event is my favorite thing.
It's incredible.
It started yesterday, so it's the best week in sports.
Have you guys seen on their app they have Game Time picks, and it kind of filters out all the fluff, I guess, of all the tickets, and they only show you the best deals as close as you can get?
Yeah, I mean, it's the most user-friendly app in the entire world.
Yeah, 100%. I know it's your favorite app, right, Elliot?
It's 100% my favorite app. Here's the thing about Game Time. I will go to another app, which I won't mention here because there are no free ads, and I'll go to Game Time. A, it's easier to use, and B, it's the all-in prices. So I know what I'm paying right there. It just tells me the all-in price. I go to another app. I won't say what it is, but it's blue, and I'll go to it, and then they'll say, all right, here's your price, and then add $700 in fees.
Yeah, I mean, Game Time is the master of tickets. It's the hub for all of my stubs, and for SeatGeeks like me, it's the only place to buy tickets. I thought that was really good.
I thought it was clever.
Very clever. Game Time won't like that. But
well, you just do some fancy.
We'll have to edit
work
that
there.
one out.
Jimmy leaves and tires falling off.
Yeah. Anyways, other housekeeping items. Are we doing box lunch today?
Yeah, we'll try to do, but it'll be a shortened box lunch today. But yeah, we will have box lunch.
Because we're also going to the Reds game as well.
I didn't think about that. All right, well, we'll box. We'll
box after this. We'll try to make it quick.
I didn't bring a change of clothes, so this is a little inside baseball. I completely forgot about that Reds game until this morning when I asked Jacob.
Casey didn't.
I totally forgot too. This is just coincidence. This is 100%
No
just
salmon Reds attire today.
That was a pretty tired look. I had to retire it, to be honest with you. I got to get rid of
I mean, Jacob about jumped out the chair when you walked in that day.
Yeah, he did.
I just thought it was so funny.
I mean, I had
And
to
the
be
team's
so
called the Reds. You found the only salmon color shirt out there.
I did.
And shorts.
And shorts. And I walked out of that house like, this looks fine.
Attack the day and dominate.
Yeah. That's the
you did.
motto, right? Yeah, so if you want to watch Box Lunch, if you want to become a member, we have 2 different priced memberships. We got a $10 membership, which gets you access to all of our videos and things of that nature. And then that's about $10. And then $25 gets you discount code for all of our merch, Leader of Men. So check those 2 out. You can become a member today.
I believe there's a
Appreciate that.
3rd tier.
Oh, yeah, that's right. We have a 3rd tier. That's the Fire Read tier. That's about $500. You get to Fire Read.
That's the tier Kinner bought.
Which is crazy because I guess Kenner did buy that tier because Reed is no longer here.
Paid it in cash.
All in ones.
By the way, no air conditioning again in the studio.
That's right.
It
feels
is
good.
sweating.
It's
I didn't notice
awesome.
it for a while, but it's picking up.
Oh, yeah, it's hot. It's real hot.
Yeah, I'm definitely sweating over here. Other little housekeeping items, just hit the like button if you would.
Yeah, we're at
Share it.
45. We're at 45 right now. Likes.
Hit the like button. Share it with a friend. Helps us grow. Helps bring in more viewers like you, more chatters like you, so you can all enjoy each other.
Viewers like you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. That does it from me.
Mousecott said he would buy the Fire Kinner level. We should add that.
You should. $10,000.
I just want half, whatever the it is. Like just the rest can go towards the membership. I just want a certain percent.
Yeah, that's fair. I think it's more than fair.
Yeah, I mean, you have a family.
Yeah.
Actually, we should have a level where every time someone buys this particular package or whatever, like I'll just take that week off.
Yeah, I'll do it
Proceeds
too. Actually,
go to the
Yeah,
Chatterbox.
me too.
Yeah.
And then as long as I get a cut of it, I don't care. Pay me to. I mean, like that's fine. Pay me to stay away.
Inside baseball, if there was a tier that you could buy and Jacob gets a vacation week, Jacob would buy that tier.
I would also. buy that. Elliot gets half the year off. How much is that?
Yeah.
See, that's a
What are we
part the
talking
listeners like you guys. That wouldn't work.
No, but it would work for me.
Because I would just buy it.
Fair. Aye. All right. Did we wrap up our housekeeping items?
Let's go back to the radio.
All right, and we are back off the bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. Justin Kinner, Casey McAllister, Elliot Rearing, Jacob Tissett back with you here, at least on the radio side of things. We just had to wrap up, of course, the housekeeping items. Casey does a great job with that, as always. Little buy or sell is what we're jumping into as we come back. Did you guys have a chance? I know you did. You watched the U.S. team, clinch gold over the weekend.
That's right.
I know it was a little dicey against Serbia last week. We talked about that on Friday, but still a close game on Saturday, but the U.S. team prevailed, getting gold for the 5th straight year.
That's right. Yeah, Kevin Durant, 4 gold medals, most gold medals of anyone on Team USA history. So phenomenal career for him, the all-time leading scorer for Team USA. LeBron secures the Olympic MVP, and now apparently the Olympics aren't world championships. That's something else. So
Yeah, I don't get
just
it.
keep moving those goalposts. But yeah, US is the best team in the country, or in the world. Obviously, the best team in the country. It's a country.
What are your thoughts on the Mickey Mouse minutes for Jason Tatum, who looked terrible?
I think it's very funny that Steve Kerr got bullied into playing Jason Tatum in the
By the-
gold medal game
by his mother.
Yeah, it was very funny. It was,
And he was terrible.
he stinks.
You
I'm
don't
not a
like my
Jason
you don't
Tatum
like my
guy.
take that Jason Tatum's not the most important player on the Celtics.
Well,
but he's
no.
not.
I agree with your take. I think Jaylen Brown is. I just disagree with where you put Jason Tatum on the rankings.
He's third. He's behind Derek White. Derek White was much more important to Team USA.
A guy that
Yeah,
contributed
he
to the
was
gold.
more important to Team USA.
It is weird, the dynamics of the Team USA, because you have 2 guys on the Celtics that got a ton of minutes, and then the 2 main guys. One, Tatum didn't play. Brown didn't even make the roster. So it's like just the whole way it shaked out was wild as far as that's concerned. But yes, so Kevin Durant gets 4. How did LeBron not get 4 gold medals?
Because he didn't play in Tokyo.
He sat one out.
didn't play in
sat one of the
2020.
Olympics. Oh, he was un-American for a 4 year
He also didn't
stretch?
play in 2016 because of Zika in Rio.
My God, he would have won.
Yeah, he would have 5.
Wow.
You'd be the greatest athlete of all time. Now, some LeBron slander did come out last night.
I saw
when
this.
a little kid got in front of him, and LeBron said, "Back up." And I guess everybody was very upset that LeBron should have treated the child with more respect and grace. But at the same time, like, at what point does like a celebrity get a little bit of like leeway when it comes to, I just want to walk in peace? Because I feel like he was just walking, and the kid stepped right in front of him and was going to follow him, God knows for how long. LeBron's like, just back up. Just back up. I had no issue with that. But I know everybody else got very upset.
The security was brushing everyone off. The kid ignored security and
Correct.
bounced in. Like, at that point, I saw people wanted an excuse to jump on LeBron. I mean, it doesn't look good. I get that. Like, you see a clip of LeBron who just won a gold medal yelling at some kid that just wanted to take a selfie. If you want to simplify it to that, to create a bullet point to rip LeBron, fine. But it's not how it works. I get that people say, well, if it's a grown adult, yes, that's fine. But a kid, at the same time, where's the grown adult that's in charge of that kid that should have been, get your ass back here?
Yeah.
That's right. I know it. I can acknowledge that it doesn't look good watching a LeBron yell at a fan. But at the same time, the circumstances, security is trying to get everyone back, and he just slips in anyways. I didn't have a problem with it, but as soon as I saw it, I knew he was going to get a lot of heat for it.
Yeah. Again, that's just people, MJ lovers who hate LeBron, and they're going out finding anything they can to slander my guy.
Jacob,
and all he does is win for this country. That's
right.
all he does.
That's right.
He puts on not for his city,
Steph
for his
Curry. By the
country.
way, who won the MVP?
LeBron.
Steph Curry. You put
It's
in
the whole tournament, so that's important.
I know. Steph Curry, but put in a late run at MVP towards the last 2 games there.
He scored more points and hit more threes in the last 2 games than the first 7.
That's
crazy. Like he went off when it mattered most, and Steph Curry was incredible. He built up his Olympic pedigree. I think that gold medal is about as big for his legacy as any of those championships. So.
You tweeted out that it's the greatest Olympic team that we'll ever see. Is that true?
I don't know about we'll ever see. I think it's by far the best team that we have seen. I take it back. It will be the best team we ever see. Because I think this is the last time that talent is so concentrated in the United States.
Yep.
I think it's going to continue. The U.S. team is going to continue to decline, and that's not even because that the players are necessarily getting worse. It's just better players around the world. We saw Serbia put up a competitive game. We saw, France put up a competitive game. Who knows what Wembanyama is going to become even as soon as 2028. I mean, he's a dominant force already at 20 years old. So I think the rest of the world's going to get a lot better. We've already seen this team played 4 times as many NBA players as, the 92 Dream Teams. So, yeah, I think the competition's, continuing to rise, and every gold medal is more impressive than the last. And this team did it in a way that I don't think we'll see for a long time, just because of how established as legends a lot of this roster was. I mean, next year it's going to be Anthony Edwards, Devin Booker, probably, John Moran, a lot of those younger guys, which is going to be super fun to watch. But it's another 12, 16 years till they get to the point career-wise where, KD, LeBron, Curry were, that made watching this run so cool to see those guys, play together after you watched them for a whole, era of basketball dominate the game. So I think we're ways away before we see another national team that's as exciting as this one.
Will John Morant be the best shooter in U.S. men's basketball history?
You a big jaw guy, huh?
What event will he participate in
Shooting.
the Olympics?
I would assume the 5-on-5 basketball.
Damn it, my bad. I did. I'm that guy. I hate those guys, and I became that guy right there. I did.
That's all right though.
I saw that coming, and I'm like, oh, that's a good one. And instead of just letting you enjoy it, I had to be the ooh guy. I know the answer. Yeah, my bad.
It's all right.
My bad.
He's firing on all cylinders.
I'll be better next.
Did anybody watch the closing ceremony?
No, I did not.
I also did not. But I saw Tom Cruise jumped off the building, so that was the only thing I saw.
I saw that Snoop Dogg did his little introductory ceremony for the Olympics coming to LA in 2028, as far as that's concerned. But yeah, that $10 million contract he signed, he got like what, $500,000 a day or something crazy.
Yeah.
Just to be there, present at the Olympics or whatever, as far as that's concerned. But speaking of the Olympics, this will be our first buy or sell as we jump into this. Buy or sell Anthony Edwards will be the captain of the 2028 U.S. men's basketball team. Again, Steph Curry, LeBron James, obviously Kevin Durant. You'd think that that's the last time you're going to see any of those guys represent Team USA in the Olympics. And now it's going to be, of course, a youth movement. Is Anthony Edwards going to be the face of that youth movement, if you will, that next wave of stars representing Team USA in the 2028 Olympics? Buy or sell Anthony Edwards being the captain of the 2028 U.S. men's basketball team?
I'm going to sell it, but I do think it's a two-horse race. I think he's a very good shot at getting there. Obviously, 4 years until then. My pick is Devin Booker. I think Devin Booker is going to be the captain of that team. We saw him really relinquish that star role in the last 2 Olympics. 2 gold medals now for him. He was, a great player off the bench in the 2020 Olympics. Now starting this year, great defender. Really slid into a role player role, which I think a lot of people loved with him. I think they're going to give him the nod to be the captain, but I think Anthony Edwards is probably the easy answer.
Based on age, I don't think he'll get it. But surely I think he will be deserving of it. I think he will be probably the best player, American player that we have coming into the next Olympics. So, yeah, I think he deserves it. I don't think he'll get it. So, for that reason, I'm going to sell. Sell.
I'm like, so who are the next wave of guys, though? Like, when we talk about this dominance that the U.S. team just had, of course, they were challenged throughout, and the rest of the world has – I don't think they've officially caught up with USA basketball, but the talent pool has definitely increased significantly, no doubt about it. But, like, if Devin Booker, captain, it doesn't mean he's your best player. It just means he's your captain. But, like, he is one of your best players at that point. Yeah. Obviously, we talked about Ja. I mean, Anthony Edwards. What does this roster look like in 2020?
I would imagine your guy Donovan Mitchell will be on the team. I think he'll probably sneak into that USA roster. Cade Cunningham is another name a lot of people have been throwing around. He's, kind of buried up in Detroit, all due respect to our guy Jimmy, but he's a very exciting player, was incredible in college, so he could break onto the team. The guy that everyone's kind of circling as the next great American player, Cooper Flagg, he's still in high school. He's going to be a freshman at Duke this year, but he dominated this team in the scout team practice games. Yep. He played very well against this team, dominating the likes of Anthony Davis, Joel Embiid in the post at just 17 years old. So him, Paolo Banchero played for the team in 2020, and he was left off the team this year when KD and LeBron and all them came. Well, I guess KD played, but when LeBron and Steph Curry wanted to be on the team, a lot of those guys towards the back end of the roster in Tokyo were left off the team. And then Jalen Brunson is the one that I think is probably the biggest name that'll be added to the team, and he'll probably be the lead guard if I had to guess.
Maxey, maybe?
Potentially, but I think the guard position is a little bit deep for him to be there. At forwards, Tatum will be back, and then you would expect Zion, if he's healthy.
His mom might pull him and say, hey, I'm taking him to France. I'm taking him to, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I don't know. And then big man-wise, Bam will be back. I don't know what Embiid will do. He'll be right on the edge there of playing in another Olympics. Maybe he'll come back, and then I think Chet Holmgren is the one a lot of people are excited about playing for the American team.
I like Chet, but I'm just saying you're bringing Chets and Bams to a Giannis, to a Jokic, to it's wild. American basketball for me growing up was all about the big guys, was all about the post players, and now it's so guard centric. And now you see how the rest of the world has caught up with USA basketball. It is through the dominant bigs, not just being big on the block, but their ability to shoot and score from the perimeter. Obviously, no doubt about it. Last one on Team USA basketball, buy or sell, that we have seen the last of either of LeBron, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant. We have seen the last of them representing a Team USA jersey.
All of them?
Any of them. We will not see any of them.
I think one of the three play in 2028.
Who's that one?
I think it's going to be LeBron.
I think it's LeBron, too.
I think LeBron's going to play.
It's in L.A., dude. Like, his ego, there's no way.
Because I think he's going to force Bronny onto that bench.
Oh, could you imagine?
I think Bronny's going to be on that bench.
Could you imagine Olympic athlete Bronny?
Tyrese Halliburton didn't play a minute. Bronny can do that.
And to be fair, Jason Tatum wouldn't have played if his mom didn't step in.
Right, that's nepotism.
So that's nepotism. So yeah, you know what? I agree with this take. I think LeBron will wear a jersey in 2028, and I think Bronny will be right there with him, starting.
Starting.
Oh
nice.
yeah.
I don't know if I'm going that far.
Why not? Let him take on Croatia, wherever the hell they're playing.
Maybe LeBron coaches. Steve Kerr needs to be on.
But Steve Kerr with a tough coaching.
Who do you want to coach Team USA?
I like when you go to do you think Dan Hurley has a shot?
That's my answer.
I think Dan Hurley.
I want it to be
I think
Hurley.
Dan Hurley's going to. Could you imagine a fierce Dan Hurley yelling at LeBron up by 35 against the Netherlands? Oh, that would be so much
That's
fun
what
to
we
watch.
got. That's what it was. Gino coached the men's team for a while, and that's exactly what it was. Fiery college coach, and then Coach K took over.
Coach K was good.
Coached them like a college team. I think that's what these guys need in the Olympics. I think that'll make them a little bit better. I'm very, very pro Hurley being.
Hurley would have told Mama Tatum, "You
That's
sit
right.
down, ma'am."
That's right.
He would have said, "Ma'am," but he would have been polite while stern
Bengals
at the
fan.
same time. Hurley is?
Yeah.
Yes, he was on. What show was he on when he let that be known?
I don't know.
I think it was Dan Patrick's show or something.
But he's a
He
Bengals
let
fan.
that be known as far as that's concerned. But no, with the Olympics being in LA in 2028, if LeBron is still playing at a high level, and keep in mind a high level may not be 28, 8, and 7, but a high level could still be 24, 4 and 3 still for LeBron. I could see him still trying to maybe squeeze one more in. I don't think he's committed to it now, but Jacob, I think if he's still playing at a decent level, it wouldn't surprise me. You said Bronny, but his youngest one
Bryce.
is even better as far as
I
that's
think LeBron
concerned.
will be retired from the NBA by then. So he would have to come out of retirement to play in the Olympics, which would definitely be interesting. But I think since it's in LA, that's the only reason I'm giving it a shot.
Yeah.
I'm giving it a shot because he's still at peak physical form.
That's right. Yeah.
Like we can say he's so old, he's made enough money, yada yada yada, but he can still play basketball better than 99.9% of people on this planet.
He was the best or one of the best. I don't need to get into that right now. Wings we've ever seen play small forward for about 15 years, and then he got old and his knees started to hurt a little bit, and he said, I'll be the best point guard in the league now. And I'll just be the best passer we've ever seen. And then he just models his game to whatever he can do physically, which is why I think he can play for quite literally as long as he wants to play.
Yep.
All right, we'll pick up with more buy or sell on the other side. I'm not sure where we're at time-wise, but I know I want to talk a little
You got that
Cubs,
one
little Brandon Ayuk. We still have to jump into him, a little Jermaine
What about the
Burton.
Reds? You haven't talked about the Reds yet.
Oh, the Reds are coming up.
I
The
can't
Reds
wait to talk
are
about
coming
the
up.
Reds.
I know.
Whenever we talk about the Reds, there's just a light of sunshine that shines upon me. Because I love talking about them so much.
They made up a half game over the weekend, dude.
Good for them.
They are moving up.
Even when you lose,
wild
you
card
win.
I have to get excited about.
I'm not getting excited about anything.
I think we have to.
4.5 games out, dude. We'll be right back. More off the bench when we come back. All right, and welcome back. Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. Justin Kinner, we got Casey McAllister, Elliot Rearing, Jacob Tissett with you here. Of course, the day started with Dialed In with Tom Brenneman. Luke was back as well. I know Luke's about to start his upcoming college year, of course, in Indiana. So I know that they're working out how they're going to get that show continuing on. It will continue on. They're just ironing out the details, but it was cool to see both of them in studio today. And then, of course, we opened up the show diving into the Cincinnati Bengals and their preseason opener over the weekend. Joe Burrow, T. Higgins connecting on a touchdown in their only drive of that preseason game 1. Results don't matter score-wise. I really don't care about that. But we talked a lot of Cincinnati Bengals. If you missed it, you can go back. If you're just jumping in now, you can go back, rewatch the show. You can download the podcast, be very involved with everything we do here at Chatterbox Sports. We appreciate that, of course. Now we're doing a little buy or sell. Of course, we talked a lot about the United States men's national basketball team. Of course, they win gold for the 5th straight year, which is pretty cool, but a lot of changes coming for that roster moving forward, and that's why we spent a little bit of time on our opener for buy or sell as far as that's concerned. Let's go to the Cincinnati Bengals a little bit. Jermaine Burton, you're really high on Jermaine Burton. I thought that was a sneaky big that was a very good get. There were the question marks about character, which I always roll my eyes at the draft. I mean, character matters, but I think some you could kind of comb through the weeds a little bit to decipher what's a problem, what's not. I like Jermaine Burton. I was actually, the reason I know I like him is I was pissed when they drafted him, because I thought once I got to that point in the draft, I'm like, all right, I don't think there's anyone I need to worry about. And then I'm like, except him. I like Jermaine Burton a lot, especially as the number 3 option. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins going to get a lot of attention, no doubt about it. You have an elite quarterback in Joe Burrow. Obviously, that O-line's beefed up. This offense is going to be firing on all cylinders this year. So buy or sell, and we're going to start with our guy Casey over here. Buy or sell Jermaine Burton being in the Offensive Rookie of the Year category.
Ooh, I just don't know if he's gonna get the snaps for it. I think he has the talent, but you saw what Yoshi did as well, which was very good. I thought he played very, very well. His one catch over the middle on a crucial 3rd down. I I think it's just going to be really competitive for him to get those snaps that he's going to need in order to get Rookie of the Year. I mean, you're talking about like probably at least 1,000-yard receiver and 7+ touchdowns just to even be in the conversation.
Fair.
And then you're competing against the rookie quarterbacks. You're competing against the rookie running backs as well. I'm going to sell that he's going to be a contender for it. I think he has all the talent in the world. I think he is just not going to get the snaps for it.
I am going to buy it. I think as we saw a little bit, I mean, again, preseason stuff, I'm not going to write too much into it. If this is going to be a very pass-heavy offense, you're going to need him to be good. Not to mention, if not that I'm hoping for it or wishing it happens, if Jamar or T, if one of them misses a couple games, if there's a 3-game stretch where one of those two guys isn't there, he's going to make a big impact. Trent Irwin made a decent impact last season and maybe a little bit of the year before, and not a ton of snaps. Casey's right. He's going to have 1,000 yards or close to it, and he's going to have probably at least 5 touchdowns, 6 touchdowns to be in this conversation. But I think the Bengals offense is going to be incredibly efficient this year, which means he's going to be good. And I think that alone is going to put him in contention. Well, do I think he's going to win it? No, but I think he's going to be in contention, and that's the question. Bye.
Yeah, I think, and Jacob, we'll close with you in a second. He's taking on that Tyler Boyd role, and Tyler Boyd was excellent in those situations when all the defensive attention is going to, of course, Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. And the reason I'm going to sell it, I think he's good enough to win it. But also, we keep forgetting, I think, with Gesicki there too, I think that is another key piece in the passing offense for the Bengals, that I think it's going to be Jamar and T, then tight end, then your third wide receiver option. I think ideally that's what you would – I think that's one reason why they went out and got him. I just think the kid's super talented, and I think that he's going to benefit greatly from the attention that the defense is going to be putting on those other weapons in the offense. Jermaine Burton was drafted because I think he was they're hoping that he's going to pan out. So if T. Higgins leaves, he's going to just slide right in to be that number 2 wide receiver threat to complement Jamar Chase. And I think that's what ideally that pick was. But at the same time, we've watched 3 receivers in the Bengal offense nearly get close to 1,000 yards before. And if he is as good as what you guys are hoping, he could maybe be in that category. But to Casey's point, the touchdown numbers have to be there. I think that the opportunity for the yards will be there. I don't think that the opportunities for the touchdowns will be there. It's a lot of touchdowns that have to go around. I think the tight end role is going to play a huge role in the offense this year, but T and Jamar are going to eat, no doubt about it.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I don't know when he's going to slide into that third role. I certainly expect him to, but I think to start the year, it's probably going to be Yoshivas. And I don't know how long that's going to last. So that's kind of why I'm selling. And I'm also selling just because of the faith I have in the rest of these rookies. I mean, I think Caleb Williams is going to be unbelievable. And I think we have 5 or 6 locked 1,000-yard receiver rookies as well. Marvin Harrison, Malik Neighbors, Xavier Worthy. If the Chiefs don't go out and get another receiver, Keon Coleman's the number 1 receiver in Buffalo, Lad McConkey in L.A., and you got Roma Dunze in Chicago as well. That's just such a deep rookie wide receiver class. I think he would have to go crazy, and with the other mouths to feed on that Bengals offense, I just don't think the opportunity for the numbers are there. I do think we're going to have a serious conversation at the end of this offseason about whether or not we need to get a second wide receiver.
Yep.
I think he's going to be good enough in that third wide receiver role that when T. Higgins does leave, it's not as much of a panic button as we expected it to be, because even if we don't go get a 1B, we have a very, very good number 2 in Jermaine Burton. That's how I expect this season to go.
All right, little buy or sell. Oh, yes, Casey.
The one thing I'll touch on this point, because I was thinking, how many teams have ever had 3,000-yard receivers or 4,000-yard just players in general? There's only been 6 teams that ever have 4 players hit the mark of 1,000 yards. 4 players hit 1,000 yards. So that alone is a very tough mark to hit.
That's higher than I thought it would be, to be honest. Yeah, especially with the passing game just recently taking off. Do you have
not passing yards, just 1,000 yards in total for 4 players to hit 1,000 yards in total. So that's including rushing yards as well. So San Francisco just did it last year with Christian McCaffrey and I guess Ayuk, Debo, and then I don't know who the other guy is.
Probably Kittle.
Kittle, probably. So it's not impossible. I think this offense can really, really get going if it wanted to. I just think it's like who you replacing out of that group? Gesicki.
Well, I don't think we're going to have a 1,000-yard rusher.
No.
So
it'll be combined.
I would just say 3.
Yeah, like 3. There's a chance for us to have 3,000-yard receivers with Boyd
I guess
2 years ago.
I guess if you think Gesicki could get 1,000 yards.
No way.
Well, what I'm saying
Well,
is
right.
there's
No, I agree. I was just saying who could be a fourth.
what I'm saying is there's Gesicki, there's Yoshi, potentially Charlie Jones coming back, then there's Burton. Like I don't know if we're
I think our wide receiver 3 position will have like 1,100 yards and 8 touchdowns, and that's going to be separated amongst like 3 guys.
right.
I hope Burton's towards the top of that, and I think that just determines when he takes that position over from Yoshi, who clearly has it based on snaps on Saturday night.
Gesicki gonna get 700 yards again?
I think way over.
Really?
I think he'll be our third.
He had 700 in 2020. He had 780 in 2021. Outside of that, I mean, obviously 360 in 2022, 240 in 2023. 2018 and 19, 200 and 500.
I think he'll be our third leading receiver behind Jamar and T.
See, I look at that. His numbers are high. I think those are high numbers because of the fact that, they didn't have a lot of weapons where he came from at this point, right? Like, he's coming into a very crowded weapons room. I think, you think he'll get a lot of yards? You'll think he'll be the third receiver? Okay.
I think he'll push 1,000.
Came from Miami, though.
I wouldn't doubt that.
I mean, Tyreek and Waddle.
Okay, I keep thinking of the Patriots.
He was with the Patriots. He didn't put up numbers.
That's where my head was going. Like last year, only one wide receiver touched the 1,000-yard marker, or tight end. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
George Kittle, 1,000 yards. I mean, Travis Kelce was at 984.
Oh wow.
Ingram was at 963. Hawkinson 960. So yeah, but it'll be. I think touchdowns too will be a big indicator. I think his usage in the red zone is going to be key.
Yeah, I would expect. I think he's the best red zone target Joe Burrow's had in his career.
Really?
Yeah.
I agree.
So we'll see. As far as that's concerned. All right, continue on with the buy or sell. I forgot we were doing buy or sell. We got locked
Buy or
in on
sell.
the conversation. Buy or sell. All right, let's do, speaking of Brandon Ayuk and the 49ers, Brandon Ayuk has been involved in a lot of trade rumors. A lot of teams apparently have had deals on the table. The Niners have just been accepting deals left and right. But he's still a Niner. Will he remain a Niner? Will Brandon Ayuk will be a Niner week 1. Buy or sell?
Buy. I think Brandon Ayuk's going to be a 49er for at least this season, and I'm not completely closed the door on getting an extension still. Apparently they revised their extension, gave him a better offer over the weekend, so we'll see what happens there. That bridge certainly seems burnt, but if he's not going to take an offer for the biggest amount of money or any offer that the Niners accept, I don't really see a route to get him out of town, so I'm going to buy it.
Normally I'd buy it, but I think it's to a point where the bridge is so far burnt that there's almost no way you can plan because you don't know what kind of player you're getting. You don't know what kind of attitude he's going to come into work every day with. I would look to, I know they are looking to get rid of him, but I'd look to get rid of him immediately. As soon as you can, as hopefully he can agree to something, I'd look to dump him as soon as possible before the season starts because, again, I don't know what I'm getting with Brandon Ayuk come the start of this season, who very out and openly does not want to play for your team. I think it's an insult to pretty much anybody in the 49ers organization to have some guy so open and willingly not professional, not wanting to stay on your team, wanting to move elsewhere.
When you've done nothing but win.
Correct.
To be fair, I don't know if it's that he doesn't want to be a Niner. He wants to be a Niner for the right price, right?
But he's declined contracts.
And that's why I wish we knew what the numbers were because it's just kind of one of those But no,
But if he's going to keep getting leaked on Instagram and everything, I'm leaving San Francisco. I don't want to be
following the Commanders, unfollowing the Niners, doing
yada
those
yada
things.
yada. Play your game somewhere else. We'll go get a wide receiver who wants to be here, who wants to play football. If you want to make it about yourself, go elsewhere.
I didn't realize him and Jamar were in the same draft class.
Yeah.
So that's he's also doing what Jamar is doing 2 years.
But he wasn't a first-round pick, so it's just 1 year.
Oh, so he has
this year would be next year for Jamar.
Okay, now I see. As far as that's concerned, last thing on this too, let's say the Niners do get a deal done with him, and he is a Niner, and you have Debo, and you have Christian McCaffrey, and you look at the Marlins. My gosh, sorry, we're gonna talk baseball. You look at the Dolphins, and they have Jalen Waddle, and they have Tyreek Hill. I know they reworked and restructured the deal for Tyreek Hill for that extension, but we just keep saying T. Higgins. I know we've brought this up multiple times. T. Higgins, it's his last year. But you start to look at these rosters, the way they shake out around the league. I was all for T leaving Cincinnati because I was like, well, there's no examples of teams that have invested heavily into multiple wide receivers. That's now a common thing now. I mean, does that change the Bengals' approach to T. Higgins or at all? Or would you think fans will be pushing the Bengals to go in that route when you're watching so many other teams do the same thing?
I think most fans will. I think most fans will absolutely be pushing that, especially if the Dolphins and Eagles are successful this year with two $25+ million wide receivers. But when I say it's T. Higgins last year in Cincinnati, I say it kind of optimistically. I do not want the Bengals to put $100 million in 3 players.
Fair enough.
Just personally, it's not how I view winning football from a front office standpoint. I think that's a bad way to go. So I certainly wouldn't be mad if they extend T. Higgins. I would, kind of say, shucks, I don't agree with that move for about 5 seconds, and then be really happy T. Higgins was a Bengal. Exactly. Exactly. Be really happy for the rest of my life, the rest of that contract. So, yeah, I mean, I don't really have a super strong opinion one way or the other. Personally, I lean that letting him go would be a better move for the Bengals. I do think the way this offseason shook out, it's more in the cards now than it was at the beginning of the offseason.
I think it comes down to how much do you value your defense when you're such an offensive-heavy team like the Bengals. If they're able to prove this year that they can just blow by everybody, it doesn't matter how many – you give up 28 points a game, but you're scoring 38. At what point does it all right, we'll just focus on our offense and we'll just outscore everybody? Obviously, allowing 28 points a game isn't ideal in any world, in any scenario, and probably come playoff time, it's going to hurt you. But if the Bengals are able to be successful this year and again, very early on, we don't know what this defense is completely yet right now, what it will become this season. But if they're able to just outgun every single team they play without a focus on the defense, at that point, I would say, you know what? Yeah, I would sign T. Higgins because if the success of our team is dependent upon the offense, and probably 85% of it will, I would focus absolutely everything on there, and the defense can, I don't want to say fend for themselves, but if they can be at least somewhat serviceable out there and not give up 100 points a game, we're gonna win a lot of football games.
All right, buy or sell. Last one as we wrap this part of the show up. The Cubs are 8-2 in their last 10 games and have won 4 straight. They're quietly just doing their own thing over the NL Central and currently sit 3 games back of the wild card with a month and a half of the season remaining. Buy or sell the Chicago Cubs grabbing that final wild card spot, the hottest team not leading a division right now in the National League.
I'm going to buy it. I'm going to buy the Cubs making the playoffs. I think this whole season we've talked about how much of a letdown it has been with the pieces they have on offense, the payroll they have, how good their manager's been his entire career. We talk about, how much of a letdown, how surprised we are that the Cubs have gotten worse. Well, they're starting to play more like we expected them to have been playing all year long. And every projection has them, at least knocking on the door of that playoff spot. So I'm going to buy it. I think the Cubs are probably the best equipped team for this back-end stretch. And as Reed has pointed out to me basically every time I've seen Reed recently, is they have the easiest schedule in the National League the rest of the way.
Yep.
So I think they have a good shot.
The Cubs. Here's the thing about the Cubs, though. I think starting pitching-wise, they're great. I think bullpen-wise, earlier on they struggled this year, blew a lot of games. Offensively, they haven't been what they all thought they would. What they all thought they would be. I think they've sort of started to click it and find it as of lately. I don't think they're going to be good enough to get the final wild card spot. I think the Diamondbacks and the Padres have locked those top 2 wild cards, and then it becomes just an all for all. The Braves, Mets, Cardinals, Giants, Cubs, Reds, and out of those teams, I think the Giants have been better. I think the Cardinals have been better, and I think the Mets have been better. So I don't think they're going to get it. I'm going to sell that they will get that final spot.
Yeah, Mets have been interesting, 61-57, a half game out of that final spot. The Braves and the Mets have kind of been going back and forth with that spot. The Braves have been battling injuries, but they currently hold that final wild card spot in the National League. But they're 3-7 in their last 10. The Mets are 4-6. The Cardinals 4-6. But you have the Giants and the Cubs. The Giants a game and a half out of that final wild card spot. The Cubs 3 games back. And again, the Giants 7-3 in their last 10, 8-2 for the Cubs, as we just talked about. And then there's the Reds right behind the Giants and Cubs. I know the Reds, obviously, we're going to talk some Reds coming up here in a bit. But, yeah, the Chicago Cubs, this is just that time of the year where there's always, coming out of the All-Star break, where there's a lot of teams in the mix. We've talked about, around the All-Star break, all but 2 teams were pretty much out of the whole conversation as far as the wild card goes. Things have started to spread out a little bit. The Pirates, they came plummeting down. I was high on the Pirates. I thought that they were going to be a team with led by Skeens heading into the back half of the season that would create the most fits for the Brewers. They're in a tailspin right now. They've lost 7 straight. They're not a contender right now at all. But I think that we talked about the youth of that team. This is about the time we see some of these rebuilding rosters start to decline a bit. The season's long. I think we're seeing that with the Pirates. But yeah, the Cubs and the Giants, I think it's going to come down to those two teams to grab that final wild card. I don't trust the Cardinals. The Braves are banged up. The Mets have been so inconsistent. It's not who you've been for the full length of the season. It's who you are right now. And at least as we sit right now in mid-August, the Giants and Cubs, two most impressive teams in the mix. But again, teams get hot and cold all the time. So we'll see. This will change, no doubt about it. But those Cincinnati Reds, 4.5 back.
Yeah,
don't rule them out.
Third best run differential out of the wild card teams.
That's big. That's big. Speaking of hitting late season walls, Andrew Abbott's on the mound tonight.
That's right.
So hopefully he can
big test for Andrew
get
Abbott.
out of the way he's been trending in the month of August and have a really good outing. He's still a young pitcher, second year as a starter in the major leagues. I'm not putting too much weight on him not being completely built up for an entire 162 game season. Obviously that's incredibly difficult. I would just like to see some good starts here down the stretch.
Yep.
That'd be really encouraging going into years where we want to compete and we want to have Andrew Abbott as a big part of this rotation.
Yeah, the Reds, again, dropping 2 or 3 over the weekend against the Brewers. They avoid the sweep. That's that weird mentality we have. Like, well, they didn't get swept, so that's a win. But they did not get swept, and they made up a half game in the wild card chase, of course, and just remain in the hunt. Because if you get hot at the right time, key injuries to other teams, I know that's not a winning mentality. That's hoping more. That's not a game plan. That's hoping. But again, you have no shot if you're buried at this point. They at least mathematically have a shot. But we'll see what they do tonight again, as you talked about Andrew Abbott on the mound as far as that's concerned. You guys talked about it a little bit ago, but Santiago Espinal, he's been, really a guy that everyone's been looking at as his defense. It's not a good defensive team. We talk so much about Elly De La Cruz, as great as he is. A lot of times fans want to focus on, the errors, right? And the bad pitches he swings at, right? But then you have a guy like Santiago Espinal, who's not like a big star, but he's been providing the Reds with a little defensive depth, no doubt about it. We'll talk about that when we come back. Plus, a couple quick hits, a couple storylines we can't spend a lot of time on, but we throw them all together, and we touch on those to close out the show. More Off the Bench when we return. All right, and we welcome you back Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. We wrap up the radio portion of this here this afternoon. Again, Justin Kinner, Casey McAllister, Elliot Rear, and Jacob Tissett with you here. A lot of games, big games of baseball tonight. Cubs, Guardians. That's an interesting series right there. Again, the Guardians 69-49. They welcome in the Chicago Cubs, the hottest non-division team. Non-division leading team in the National League right now. One of the hottest teams in the wild card pursuit, as we just talked about. Cardinals and Reds, game 1. Sonny Gray, a former fan
Red
favorite, going to be on the mound with Andrew Abbott, who, of course, this is around that time of year where a pattern is starting to develop. He's kind of struggling. I don't like that Sonny Gray's on the mound tonight. I miss Sonny Gray. I was a big Sonny Gray fan.
He's been very good this year, too, which doesn't help us at all.
He was good last year, too, until that injury kind of derailed him for the back half of the season. But he's actually one of the few pieces the Reds have moved on from where they haven't had that plummet. He's one that, man, if the Reds didn't move on from, you have him. You don't trade Luis Castillo. Then you look at Hunter Green, Nick Lodolo. It's like, holy crap, that's a loaded rotation. But again, I never defended keeping those guys. There was no point in spending a lot of money on pitchers when you were embarking on what many thought would be a longer rebuild. Obviously, this isn't a finished product, but it is always kind of depressing when you see a talent like Sonny Gray come back to Great American Ballpark.
Yeah, the former Reds, I do have most of them at least. Most former Reds, especially guys like Sonny Gray, who were part of teams that I very much enjoyed. I am emotionally attached to. I was attached to guys like Jesse Winker, Eugenio Suarez as well. So whenever we get to see someone like this, I get excited. Wade Miley is another guy I'm emotionally attached to. Threw no-hitter for us, very exciting. So yeah, he was just a part of a fun time. And seeing him back tonight does not make me feel good because I know he's going to pitch pretty well.
So tomorrow's show, have this prepared. If you could bring back one former Red,
I could,
this most recent little send off.
Okay.
If you could bring back any of those guys, which one do the Reds desperately need right now as they are in this little playoff wild card hunt?
Can't wait to say my name tomorrow.
As that's concerned.
By the way, this series against the Cardinals, I guess, is somewhat important. To gain ground in the wild card standings, but it's also, a momentum builder thing to try to get above 500 at home, which I know they haven't. They're below 500 both road and away. Try to make up some home ground as well in front of the home fans. I'm hoping the Reds are successful. I really do. I hope the Reds win. I hope they go on a hot streak. I hope we make the playoffs. It's just hard for me to look at it after that Brewers series and go, this is the team. They do the fundamentals so wrong that it's crazy. They don't run the bases correctly. They don't have good defense. And it's just like one of those things where, is that on the manager? I don't care. It's somebody's got to coach these guys up to where we're making routine fundamental plays correctly. Because I don't think I'm asking for a lot. Just play baseball the way it was supposed to be played. Don't be crazy out there. Don't get thrown out every single time you get on the base path. When Jamir Candelario is getting thrown out with 0 outs in a blowout game, trying to get any sort of momentum, it's just nonsense to me. It's absolutely nonsense, but whatever. I'm fighting through it. You mentioned Santiago Espinal. Trace brought up a decent point on Chatterbox Reds. I don't know if it was last night or the night before, that Santiago Espinal, maybe you could make the argument that he starting every day. And you give Jonathan India some work out in the outfield. God knows the outfield needs some help. So maybe that's the play going forward. I will say this. I was down on Santiago Espinal, and let's be very clear. He hasn't been a great player for the Reds. But this is given, I would say, 30 less games than every other starter. He's been pretty efficient. Obviously, on-base percentage isn't great. OPS isn't great. And slugging percentage probably isn't great either. But he's had big hits. He's been a great defender for us, and he's had some very clutch hits, as our good friend Twitter Randy likes to tweet at me every single time he does anything. But yeah, Santiago Espinal has been one of the bright spots in the wave of free agents we brought in. So good for Santiago Espinal. Hopefully we start seeing him play a little bit more. Getting his average up to 250 is crazy to me because he was below that 200 line for a long time.
He's hitting 490 in his last 50 plate appearances.
That's crazy.
Granted, that's 15 games because he doesn't necessarily play as much, but 50 plate appearances, 490, 519, 816. He's been nothing short of incredible, and he's a good glove. He's a really good glove.
He has 8 home runs in 79 games. So I know you might not say that's a lot, but to put it in perspective, we have Jonathan India, who's played 31 more games than him. He has 9 home runs. Will Benson, who's played in 30 more games than him, has 12 home runs. So Santiago Espinal has been a crucial part of this team. He's been healthy. He's been available. He's played where we needed him to play. When I look back at this season, I get frustrated who we've had and who we haven't had, who's had to play in meaningful games. I won't be mad at Santiago Espinal, and that's as nice of a thing as I can say to him. He's helped the Reds out this season tremendously.
An impressive 180 from where we were at on him earlier this year.
And listen, I still stand by it that he wasn't ever supposed to be a guy that was producing at the level that he is. So at the same time, I still have the right to be like, we could have had somebody better if we knew all of this was going to go down. But for the role that he was supposed to have, for the role that I expected him to have, he's been good with that expectation. Do I think he's an everyday baseball player for the Cincinnati Reds going forward? Absolutely not. But given the fact what I've seen with the rest of the guys, the bottom half of that lineup, he's been by far the best of the bottom. So good for Santiago Espinal.
Well, and the thing, too, is I'm not advocating anyone go buy the dude's jersey, but if the Reds have any aspirations of making a run to close that 4.5 game gap with the wild card spot, it is going to take guys like him having to remain playing at the level they're doing.
100%.
Plus, as you talked about, too, wasn't a guy that there was a lot of stock put into coming into the season, but it's usually guys like that do carry teams who get hot at this time of year where you know what you get from your main guys, but it's usually those surprise pushes from guys who you didn't put a lot of stock to coming into the year. You're going to have to continue to get that push from him for this team to have a shot to close that gap, as we talked about, as far as that's concerned. The other thing, too, that's also key is the fact that he's doing this in the bottom third of the order.
100%.
Like having a guy like that's producing for you in the bottom third of the order. Now, I get it. We're talking about, and as Trace talked about, maybe opening the mindset a little bit of an everyday player. I mean, right now, what's it going to hurt at this point? You can't. This is a sub 500 team continue doing things the way you've done all season. Making a little bit of a change like that, a lot of times when you look at teams who get hot at this time of the year that do make that playoff push, usually there's always that storyline that they run in the features of before the playoff series. Man, this team was dead and out. They made this change, and since then their record was this, and they've taken off since. That could be that storyline. That could be that just slight change. And you talked about, too, Jonathan India. The future is unknown as far as it's concerned with him being a long-term Cincinnati Red. They have a need in the outfield as well. If he can play that position well and address that need, it could be a win-win for both sides.
Here's where I get a little shaky with having Jonathan India play the outfield. And by the way, that should be the only place he can play going forward, assuming we have healthy baseball players or players that are good once they get off steroids. The Reds need help out there that is beyond our organization. And I don't want them to settle on Jonathan India being our right fielder, because that's not a winning mentality. It's not a winning attitude. And this is no knock on Jonathan India. I think he's a good baseball player, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend that he's going to be a major help defensively out there or offensively. I think offensively he's had a great year. He's hitting 250. He's got a 350 OBP. He's got a 740 OPS. He's been efficient when we've needed him. He was the hottest player of the season, if there was an award for that, I guess, for that 1 month stretch he had. But at the end of the day, you have to go outside the organization at some point. Settling for a guy like Jonathan India out there in right field helps nobody, especially given the amount of injuries this team has faced over the past several seasons. I want somebody out there, a veteran free agent bat, a right-hander who can go out there and hit home runs. That's what I want. Will I get it? I don't know. We'll have to find out. But Jonathan India, again, I do think he's an integral player. You look at what he's done this season, and that's why you keep a guy like Jonathan India on this team. You can play him wherever. He's going to be efficient. And I know everybody wants him out because supposedly we're going to have healthy players eventually. Until I see we have healthy baseball players, I'm not going to want to trade Jonathan India at peak value, because we're going to need guys like Jonathan India if we lose everybody eventually. And it just seems to me, as of the past couple of seasons, we've had a serious case of the injury bug. And that's why I want Jonathan India here. But my final point, again, do not settle for him out in the outfield as our starting right fielder. So it's him, Spencer Steer, and TJ Friedel next year. That is a losing mentality.
All right, off the bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. You talk about the health aspect of this team. One key piece that has been missing all season for the Reds was Matt McLain. So when it comes to the health, and when there's been the debate, would we see him at all this season? Well, there's only a month and a half remaining of the season, hopefully a little longer, but right now we are guaranteed a month and a half remaining of the season. Doesn't look good for old Matt McLain as far as making any kind of return. It sounded like he was going to start a rehab assignment, but that got pulled. Reds manager David Bell told reporters this past Friday that McLain, his shoulder and rib, will not begin his rehab assignment scheduled for, it was supposed to be today, according to MLB.com's Mark Sheldon.
Yeah,
so
huge
that was
relief
key
in my mind. I mean, when he hurt his core the first time, they said that they were still anticipating him starting the rehab assignment on time, and then has changed now. That was when I really hit the panic button. And if he is not 100% healthy, I do not want him playing baseball. And I don't know how many more times I can say that when hopefully someone listens. There's no reason. We can look at the wild card standings as much as we want and talk ourselves into being competitive this year. That's fine as a fan base. That's what fans do. The ownership cannot be rushing these guys back to try to sneak into the third wild card spot in 2024. That would be the worst possible thing that could happen, is if Matt McLain comes back and somehow gets hurt again in game 150 when we're 3 games out of the wild card spot, when a team that's making the wild card at 80 and 82. Like, you can make up this lie that we're competitive to stay ingrained in the season and stay interested as much as you want, and I'm all the way with it. I'm doing it too, but when you start putting other players that are integral parts of our future at risk because of this illusion of competitiveness, I just can't get behind that.
Yeah, you've seen what has happened this year with all the injuries. I want Matt McLain to be as healthy as possible. I want him wrapped in bubble wrap for the next several months until opening day. That's when I want him back. And to be quite honest, I want minimal spring training at-bats. I don't need anybody to get hurt at all. But if you're going to do it, I certainly don't want to do it way before the next season, when we will supposedly have a chance. So yeah, I agree with Jacob 100%. Rushing him back risking injury, risking next season for this lost season. And you can say whatever you want. God bless Nick Lodolo. He has not looked the same since his IL stint. Andrew Abbott has been on a downward trend. The best aspect of this team has been the starting pitching. But if we're losing guys left and right, and they're not, and when I say losing guys, what they were before, I don't want to rush this. I don't want to rush anybody back for false hope. Nick Martinez, for as far as anybody else is concerned, he's starting pitcher number 3 at this point. 7 innings of shutout baseball or 1-run baseball, whatever he did against Milwaukee was phenomenal. So he can be there. He's been dominant. But at the end of the day, I don't know how much of this team can hold on until the end of the season and make the teams quote-unquote competitive. And certainly you are at 4.5 games back. I'm not saying you're not. Jacob and I don't cheer against the Reds. It's just a little bit realistic. Do I trust the Reds in a 7-game series with the Brewers? LOL.
I love that response. It is LOL. But they didn't get swept. They did not get swept over the weekend. I do see.
Hang the banner.
Chase Wellman says, damn, so no McLain all season. Brutal. They technically haven't come out to make that official, but this is just a setback. Not even a setback, because this isn't what he missed this season for to begin with. This is a whole other new injury as far as that's concerned. I also don't get the vibe that the Reds are rushing him back. I think that he was medically cleared to return, which is why he was starting the rehab assignment. This is a whole other separate injury, which goes to Jacob's point. At this point, it's like, okay, now you got to just be super cautious. Is the juice worth the squeeze at this point? Do you realistically...
Let's not talk juice with this young core, please.
That's valid. Valid.
I have a lot of fresh wounds.
Juice Boy's had a tough year.
Yeah.
He has.
So his fans.
He'll hit a home run tonight. He'll hit a home run tonight for you guys, though.
When do we get concerned about Juice Boy? Defensively, he's improved. That's a positive, I think.
Ooh. You guys gonna talk OBS again? Because that was the final show. You guys had that big old argument right before you went on vacation.
Yeah, and then he had like 2 extra base hits, and then he sucked
dying.
Yeah,
so we just need to keep doing that every day.
And there's no
and
statistic that's going to help him. So.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll be right. Well, no, I'm sorry.
That's
We will
it.
not be right back.
We will not be back.
As far as the radio side's concerned, that wraps up today's show. We appreciate you tuning in and hanging out with us today. We'll do this again tomorrow. Hope everybody had a great weekend. I hope you guys have a great night. Until tomorrow, on the radio side, this has been Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. So I'm only laughing because, like, when Elliot or I or Casey or whoever have a take that Jacob disagrees with, like, I could tell when I could tell. Now I've been around a little bit long enough, I could, like, tell, like, when you close your mouth and your jaw gets tight and you're just dead eye staring.
Oh, yeah.
I look over and he's typing ferociously and the jaw is tight. And I'm like, oh, someone got him. He got
No, it's, if I'm wrong about stuff, it's more than fine to call out wrong takes. That's why we're up here. We're up here for 10 hours a day. 10 hours a week, 2 hours a day, so bound to be wrong at some point. But I don't like being told I'm wrong when I wasn't. So you gotta come back on that. Brian B said, when you declared that Spires wouldn't start a game when the whole world knew he would be in the rotation. Well, all I simply said was Carson Spires wouldn't be a starter unless something went wrong for the Reds' rotation.
And it did.
Like Graham Ashcraft going on the 60-day IL or Frankie Montas being traded at the trade deadline.
Yeah, that wasn't the intended plan.
Right. Or Brandon Williamson having a setback after I had that quote as well. So.
What will your favorite memory be about Carson Spires in the starting rotation? Because he's God willing he's not there next year.
Well, right, yeah, no, I guess I'm just rooting for my take to be right.
Yeah, that's all we get. That's all we can get.
Everyone wants Carson Spires to start for the Reds.
Is this Mouse Cop's tag team partner? He loves that Brian's back apparently.
I miss Brian.
I miss Brian too.
But Mouse Cop said you're backtracking. Really. Jacob is backtracking. You got him, Brian B.
That's right.
You got
That's
him.
right.
You got him.
I got got.
He says he's never going to watch a Votto hating host, even though he's in the thing right now.
That'll teach me. I mean, sorry if I have a different sports opinion than you. My bad. My bad. God, if there's anything I hate most of anything in life is people who don't agree with my sports take. I mean, my gosh, there's worse things in life to be upset
I would
about.
say so. Much worse things.
When people say
I don't know.
You think that's the worst?
I think that's the worst.
What?
Just a bad sports take.
I think a bad sports take is like the worst.
Why would you say that? When people say like they hate my show, I'm like, why do you hate my show? Well, because you said this. And I'm like, so look, there's a lot of reasons. I'm not entertaining. I'm fat. I'm short. I'm not appealing. Like there's a lot of reasons why you can. I go over on my segments. I don't listen to when he says to go to break. There's a lot of reasons why I'm a bad show host. But just because I have a different opinion than you doesn't make me a bad show host. That just means you're lazy and you can't even give good reasons. Like, I'm giving you the reasons. Make fun of my weight, my height, whatever. I'm giving you a lot of reasons. But sports takes, that's weird. It's not, politics. It's not religion. It's just sports talk. Relax, people. Calm
I agree.
down.
Just have some fun with it. Let me ask you this.
You're the worst one at it, though. You constantly call me out for my worst day.
Who, me?
No, he was. I'm sorry.
That
was
was
him.
There's no pushback there.
You know you do it as a bit, but you know the Joey Votto TikTok thing's silly. You know it deep in your heart, and that's fine. But we don't have to touch it. We don't have
Okay,
to touch
that's
on it.
fair.
What are your thoughts on Fernando Cruz? Will Fernando Cruz be a Red next season?
Well, where else is he going to be?
I don't know. Probably in another league.
Well, then
AAA?
he'll get another new pitch and then come back at 45?
Yeah, maybe. I think he's been terrible.
Yeah,
I want to say I don't want to be right about that, but I've been right about that. I think Sean Connor put in the chat. Is that right? Most losses by a reliever this season?
I don't know for sure, but I think 8 is got to be pretty close.
I think it's pretty. It's certainly not good. 5 ERA. Tough.
Brian's not joking. He's serious.
No, Brian never jokes.
That is the thing about Brian.
That is the thing about
Guy
Brian.
hasn't smiled since 1975.
That's right.
He seems like a wonderful guy. I mean, as soon as the Tom segment I'm watching ends, I'm out. I despise this.
Well, he's not
going to
hear. He's not even going to hear this.
And I'm not joking. I believe you're not
You're
joking.
right.
You're not
He
funny.
can't
I
hear
don't.
you.
He won't even hear this.
He won't hear you.
Oh, he will. He'll watch.
No, he's
No,
stopping
he said
after
he
the
won't
Tom
watch.
segment. Did you
I
not
don't
hear?
believe him. I don't believe him. He'll watch. He'll pretend, and then he'll tell me why something I said is wrong, but he didn't watch, and they'll do it again later in the week. It's just how it goes. It's fine.
Usually every day.
Every day.
Yeah,
Damn,
usually
today was a
every
good
day.
show too. I didn't.
That's right.
I was very complimentary of all the teams. I didn't
You
even
didn't say
think
one negative thing
Yeah.
about anybody.
Yeah.
Positive about the Bengals you are, and positive about the Reds you
Is that a
are.
little Yoda?
Positive of the Bengals you are.
That was really good.
That was Yoda. That
was
Yoda.
good.
That was very good.
Not as good as James Madison, but
No, that's right.
Hey, everybody. But yeah, that's it. I don't know. Casey, got any final thoughts? Casey, how you doing?
Doing good. You know how I said that I would iron out the kinks and not make any mistakes? I made so many mistakes. Had
You
so
got
many
kinky
kinks.
over there, dude. Were you kinky
Right as
over there,
the show
dude?
started. Yeah, I'm just getting kinky over here.
That's right.
Nice.
There you
I'm
go,
going to need
Casey.
to get out of this chair because my back
It's-
is a swamp.
It's a swamp.
Love working in 95 degrees.
It is very warm. Very warm
boy.
in this room.
Molly says, Brian, I said the same thing, but I like the chatters too much. Thanks for the Facebook friend invite, Molly. I appreciate that too, by the way. Like, all these people hate me. I just don't get it.
They love you. Deep down, they love you.
They do.
It's okay. It's okay.
So we'll see everybody at the Reds game tonight.
I'm going to go check all Casey's mistakes. I'm so excited to see what they were.
Box lunch coming up. We'll give us a couple minutes here, guys, and then we'll be on box lunch.
He's laughing. Until tomorrow. It's been
Yeah, I got something to say after the show's done.
Okay.
All right.
I can't
off the
wait.
bench presented by United Dairy Farmers. See y'all tomorrow.